And similar elsewhere across England and Wales, a very wet end to the day and turning increasingly blustery as we head into the evening too. Multiple wind warnings out around coastal areas and through into inland areas as well. Heavy outbreaks of rain sweeping their way across the country. Still heavy at times overnight and still falling as snow mainly in northern areas too, and turning very blustery, particularly around western coasts. And it is going to be a chilly night on offer, particularly in those very brisk winds. So a very unsettled start to the weekend. Once again, we'll see those outbreaks of rain sweep across the country. Still heavy at times and still falling as snow across northern areas. But we're going to also see very strong winds, a risk of gales, if not severe gales at times, across Northern Ireland, western coasts of England and Wales too, where there is an amber warning in force. And it is going to feel particularly chilly in the brisk winds. Bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Clackmannanshire, the A91 is partly blocked by an accident between Tillicoultry and Dollar, causing queues each way. Now, there are delays and cancellations to a number of train services this morning because of a nationwide technical problem affecting communication between train drivers and signal workers. Buses replaced trains between Leeds and both Doncaster and Shipley because of flooding and because of overhead line problems, with buses also running between Leeds and Nottingley, and trains between Leeds and Sheffield being diverted via Darton. In West Yorkshire, the A64 is closed to eastbound out of Leeds because of an accident. In Hertfordshire, the A10 is closed northbound from Winston Churchill Way to College Road in Cheshunt after a lamppost fell onto a car, causing delays. And in Devon, the A39 is impassable because of flooding near to Paracombe. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
What about train Wi-Fi? The Times. It's so funny the Times did this story because I was on the train yesterday trying to do some work and connecting to the Wi-Fi, and it happens all the time. It just doesn't work. It's pathetic. And then I opened the Times and they've done a massive investigation. Loads of different rail routes from north to south.
Was that the James Bond thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. What's
well, that passenger got through, or almost got through, one episode. One James Bond movie in 8 hours.
But you know, it's interesting. We call it train Wi-Fi, but it isn't. It's just really a SIM card on a train, really. So if your own phone's not going to get signal, why would we assume that the train's going to have signal? It just doesn't work like that. Unless you're in Japan or South Korea, whose infrastructure is infinitely better than ours, you're just not going to get signal. You have to download those films way before you get on
There
this.
is technology that can help with that. You know, there really is. If they found ways to put it underground, they can get it on ground and get you going. I definitely think, you know, with the price that we're paying for these tickets, they can get the Wi-Fi going. There is technology.
That's why it's so frustrating, isn't
Call
it?
Elon, get a Starlink, let's go.
If you're a passenger paying hundreds of pounds for a season ticket or whatever you call it, and, you know, commute to work every single day, and you're paying all this money, and you can't.
It's so expensive. You'd expect Wi-Fi at the basic. Yeah, exactly.
But it happens with phone signal as well. I'll be walking down London in Park Lane or somewhere else, or down on the south coast. I just don't have phone signal, and I think to myself, what on earth is going on?
Doesn't it feel like 5G's made it worse, though?
Yeah.
Because I feel like 4G, that didn't happen so much, but 5G just feels like...
Yeah, and then I always get this little E in the top corner of my phone, and I don't get any signal. I think it's got worse over the past couple of years. Yeah, especially with 5G. I agree with that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Morning, hope you're well. It's 9:30 on Friday, December the 6th, live across the UK. This is Britain's Newsroom with me, Ben Leo, and Emma Trimble.
Arise, Sir Sadiq Khan, the London Labour mayor, looks set to receive a knighthood next year for his political and public service. Or is it a reward for divisive politics?
Train travel turmoil, trains delayed all across the country due to a nationwide fault across 4 major lines as passengers are told to get taxis.
Migrant hotel healthcare. Millions of pounds worth of taxpayer money is being spent to ensure migrants in hotels get the very best NHS checkups. More of that to come.
The rise of Reform UK. Nigel Farage's party overtakes Labour in a national poll for the very first time. Are they a force to be reckoned with at the next general election? They certainly think so.
Meanwhile, Farage clashed with Labour Minister Jackie Smith, the presenter Fiona Bruce and Alistair Campbell on BBC last night. Take a listen to him clashing with Tory MP Kevin Hollinrake on immigration too.
You haven't got a cat's chance in hell of winning the general election. Shame on you for what you've done. It was willful, it was deceptive, it was deliberate, and it was wrong.
Elsewhere, France in chaos. President Emmanuel Macron rejects calls to step down as president. As we say au revoir to Prime Minister Michel Barnier. We'll have all the latest. And I was just asking Emma, how do you say arise in French? Is it levez-vous or asseyez-vous?
I don't know. I only speak double boy French, I'm afraid.
Oh yeah, me too.
Mange two.
Me too.
Petit pois.
The reason being, Sadiq Khan is likely, Emma, in the new year to be Sir Sadiq.
I know, I'm sure people will be very pleased for his record-beating numbers of knife crime, for his incredible ability to meet the targets of getting people to drive slower at 20 miles an hour. I'm sure people will be very, very pleased to see him rewarded for all that he's done for our great capital city.
Don't get me started on the traffic. Trying to get from the studio in West London to the train station these days is nigh impossible. And also, have you seen those Christmas lights down Oxford Street, Regent Street, the big shopping streets in central London? Not a word of Christmas anywhere. Instead, you have happy holidays, happy festive season.
And they've also got these strange screens on them, which makes it like it's very, very clear it's a commercial holiday down in Oxford Street.
I know. Sad. But let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Is Sadiq Khan deserving of that knighthood? Tell us what you think maybe he has done well. It's quite easy, I guess, for us to say what a failed mayor he's been, but there must be something that he's done well.
I know, we'll scrape the bottom of the barrels after 10 years. Is it 10 years?
Oh,
almost 10 years that he's been Mayor of London?
10 long years. Anyway, big show coming up, but first, here's your news headlines with Sam Francis.
Ben, Emma, thank you very much. Good morning to you. It is just after 9:30. Well, the top story this morning. The Prime Minister insists there is no plan for further tax rises, but hasn't ruled out possible changes if crises like COVID or the war in Ukraine arise. Well, that comes as Sir Keir Starmer is now defending his plan for change speech amid claims he's watering down election promises. Among the milestones announced yesterday, higher living standards across the UK, safer streets with more police and 1.5 million new homes. He claims his 6 new targets will let the public hold Labour's feet to the fire. And today he's set to meet devolved leaders in Edinburgh with net zero and clean energy top of the agenda. More than 1,600 people have been arrested across England and Wales in a major week-long crackdown on county lines drug dealing. More than £3 million in drugs, £2 million in cash and 550 weapons were seized, alongside 4 XL bully dogs. Police say they also shut down 260 lines and safeguarded over 1,400 people, nearly half of them children in those operations. Well, we've heard this morning that train chaos is gripping the UK as a nationwide fault sparks major disruption across the network. National Rail has confirmed the issue is affecting communication between train drivers and signallers, leading to delays, cancellations and altered services. The fault is impacting key routes, including the Elizabeth Line, Gatwick Express and South Eastern. Passengers are now being warned to expect longer waits and are being urged to check live departure boards before setting off. Travellers are also advised to allow for extra time for their journeys as that situation unfolds. Well, a man has died after being attacked by a fighting dog in East London, with a woman now facing multiple charges following that attack. Police were called to Stratford early on Wednesday morning, where the 42-year-old was found seriously injured and sadly later died in hospital. Leanne McDonnell is charged with owning a dangerous dog that caused his death and several related offences, including neglecting the animal's welfare. The 32-year-old woman is also facing charges over a separate incident last month involving dogs that were dangerously out of control. And Storm Dara is set to batter the UK with winds up to 80 miles an hour and heavy rain posing a potential risk to life and property, according to the Met Office. An amber warning for damaging winds is in place from Scotland all the way down to Cornwall and Northern Ireland on Saturday, while a yellow warning for rain covers flood-hit Wales and Northern Ireland. 130 flood alerts have also been issued, with more than 50 red warnings in England and Wales, as heavy rain threatens to inundate already saturated areas. Well, the Environment Agency is urging drivers to avoid the floodwaters as their teams prepare for widespread impacts. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you for a full roundup at the top of the hour. Now, though, it's back to Ben and Emma.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Very good morning to you at home. Thank you for your company this morning. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK on GB News, with me, Ben Leo, and of course, Emma Trimble sat beside me.
Now, the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, is set to receive a knighthood in the New Year's honour list.
He will receive the award for public service after almost 20 years in politics. Here's a list of just a few of his achievements as London Mayor.
Well, he's provided free school meals for all state primary schools in London.
He implemented clean air zones to the dismay of millions of drivers with ULEZ.
Planted 500,000 trees.
And don't forget, he's encouraged cycling in London too and increased protecting cycling lanes. So, does he deserve a knighthood? Well, joining us now is former Labour advisor and columnist Paul Richards and Reform UK's London Assembly member Alex Wilson. Good morning to you both. Thank you for joining us this morning. Let's start with you, Alex. Is he deserving of a knighthood? Are those 5 achievements worthy enough of being crowned as a Knight of the Realm?
Certainly not. I think when I heard this news yesterday, I did wonder whether April Fool's Day had come early. So, I mean, I spend a lot of time in City Hall. My job as London Assembly member is to try and hold Sadiq Khan to account for his record, and, my God, there are a lot of things to hold him to account on housing, on policing, on transport, these huge issues that matter to everybody in London. His record is abysmal, and I think giving him a knighthood as a reward for failure just shows the absolute depth that we've reached as a country, where the honours system can be used to reward failure. It should be there to reward people who are working hard in their community and delivering great work on the ground. It shouldn't be a gong for a political crony when his record speaks for itself.
Paul, it's a bit odd, isn't it, to have socialists giving each other honours like this?
Well, most organisations have sort of good service awards, whether they're left-wing or right-wing or anything else, and as long as we have a knighthood system, then I think Sadiq Khan is entirely deserving of it. He's not the only one being awarded it, of course. I mean, Andy Street, the mayor, the Tory mayor of the West Midlands, is getting one, apparently, Emily Thornberry, and a whole slew of ex-MPs. I mean, the thing about Sadiq is he actually won elections. You know, he beat Reform, he beat the Conservatives, and he got himself elected for a record 3 terms. So London likes him, and I think London is a fantastic city. It's got its problems, but I think on his watch, it has just got better and better.
Paul, can I ask you what you think his biggest achievements are? I know we listed a couple there, but what do you think he's done well during his tenure?
Well, I was in Marrakesh a couple of weeks ago, and one forgets what it's like to live in a city that doesn't have clean air. You know, coming home each night, absolutely breathing in all the petrol. London is a clean air city, and the work he's done around encouraging cycling that you mentioned, but also the clean air that you can't see, getting the pollutants that you can't see out of the air, helping children in the future with their health, I think is a major achievement. I think that's something we will be grateful for decades to come. If you look at the redevelopment of the East End, I think the way that's transformed, around Shoreditch and those sort of places on his watch is an amazing success story. And I would also say, the world looks at us and thinks, well, we've got a Muslim mayor of a major city. There aren't many of those in the world. And I think that's an achievement in itself too, a sign of our great diversity and our forward-looking city. It's a great city. Let's not talk it down.
Alex, Paul is saying that London has just gotten better and better under Sadiq Khan. What do you say to that?
Respectfully, I completely disagree. Over the last year, we've had 15,000 incidents involving sharp objects. We've lost control of London streets when it comes to knife crime. On housing, even the government, the Labour government, his own party, which is on a national level pushing to build, it's something I actually support. However, in London, Sadiq's own housing target has been reduced by 20,000 units a year. And that, I think, is a recognition from his own party's national government that he doesn't have the will, the capacity and the ability to deliver here in London. We have a housing crisis in London. It's becoming increasingly impossible to either buy or rent for people coming onto the housing ladder, and yet we have a mayor that is incapable of rectifying that.
Well, can I come back on that, Ben? I mean, first of all, the time of his being in mayor has been under a Conservative government, all of it, so he's had to do the things he's achieved against a backdrop of a government not on his side in terms of building and taking police off the streets of London over the last few years. And what he's tried to do is, make the best of a bad job. But now there is a Labour government. I mean, we heard an announcement yesterday there's going to be more cops on the street. We heard an announcement yesterday there's going to be millions more homes, including in London. So I think now there's a time for partnership between the cities and the national government, and we can get things moving again. And that's what yesterday's speech by Keir Starmer and the announcement by Yvette Cooper was all about, putting bobbies on the beat and getting more homes built for young people.
Alex, do you think Sadiq Khan actually listens to Londoners, or he does his own thing? Because, of course, in terms of ULEZ, there was that incident last year where his deputy mayor, Shirley Rodriguez, was lobbying. Was it the London School of Economics or one of the universities who did research questioning the effectiveness of ULEZ, and it was revealed that they were asking them basically to go back and do it again because they didn't like the right answer. Nobody I've ever met, Alex, voted for ULEZ or even supports ULEZ. So do you think Sadiq Khan does things in his own image, or he actually cares about what Londoners think?
You've absolutely hit the nail on the head there. He doesn't listen. The ULEZ consultation was completely disregarded. The huge level of feedback on the extension of ULEZ, people didn't want it. And then it's been shown that it hasn't actually had a material effect on air quality in outer London. It's purely a revenue-raising gimmick, and that's something that he was always going to push ahead with, whether or not he got the answer he wanted from the consultation. And we've seen on a similar issue, the Blackwall Tunnel. As you may be aware, next year when the Silvertown Tunnel opens, Sadiq Khan is going to charge a toll for you to use both the new tunnel and the existing tunnel. Yesterday at the London Assembly, I presented the largest ever petition that has been presented to the London Assembly. 37,000 people signing to say we don't want these tolls on the new tunnels. Please think again. But the TfL board, chaired by Sadiq, has disregarded that. They've already made their decision. They made their decision months ago. They're not listening, and that's something, again, we need to keep fighting, keep talking, keep raising those issues. But sometimes it does feel like I'm banging my head against a brick wall.
But, Paul, that's right, isn't it? That in Greater London in particular, where people have, they work in a trade, they have to use vans for tools, maybe people who can't afford to buy an electric vehicle, they only have a cheaper car that possibly isn't ULEZ compliant, that actually Sadiq Khan has not only made life harder for Londoners, but he's also made or at least allowed the streets of London to become more unsafe. I know as somebody who was born and raised in London and has effectively lived here all my life, that I certainly don't feel safe walking the streets in London. I'm always looking over my shoulder to see I don't get my phone stolen out of my hand, constantly seeing people getting mugged and hearing about horrific attacks, knife crime in particular. London isn't safe, and it isn't a good place to live if you're particularly a hard-working tradesman.
Well, I recognise absolutely that people do feel unsafe walking around, women in particular, so I'm not dismissing that at all. And my own son was mugged for his phone a couple of weeks ago in Soho, so it is something we're concerned about, of course, as citizens, as parents. But it's not unique to London. Every city has its problems, and I would say London is a lot safer than many cities. There aren't any sort of no-go areas in London. As long as you're sensible and you stay to lit areas and go around with a friend, it's a lot safer than some other places, New York, for example. But we do need more coppers on the streets, and that's why we need more police presence in neighbourhoods so that the criminals are deterred, and we need that kind of concerted effort that Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper are talking about. I don't think you can blame Sadiq Khan for the rise in knife crime, because that's a phenomenon in every city, unfortunately, and we need more police to tackle it.
Well, Paul, he is the mayor and he's in charge of the police, so who do you blame if not Sadiq Khan?
Well, I blame the Conservative government for taking coppers off our streets. They sacked thousands of coppers and crime went up. No great surprise.
Well, why did Sadiq stop and search, for example? I've heard from many families of victims of knife crime who said, if only we had stop and search, and Sadiq Khan seems to think it's some sort of racist trope to do so.
I mean, I think I was on the demos saying, don't take our police away 10 years ago, and we were proved right that actually, if you take the cops off the street, then knife crime and
the Tories, Paul, did rehire 20,000 coppers in recent years before they were booted out.
Only replacing the ones they had fired in the first place. So we just got back to where we had started after 10 years of rising crime. And of course, the police that are coming in are new recruits. They've lost all the street smarts. They've lost the sergeants who knew their neighbourhoods backwards, who knew where the villains were and knew how to handle that kind of community policing. And the new recruits, great, but it'll take years for them to get up to speed. It's one of the biggest public policy mistakes of all time, was taking police off our streets 10 years ago.
Okay.
And we're still ruining the day.
All right. Paul Richards and Alex Wilson, thank you for joining us this morning. It used to be my dream, Emma, to live in London. I used to come up from the South Coast every Saturday and go to Arsenal games and drama classes. And it used to be my dream to live in Angel in Islington, where my brother lived. He lived near Highbury. Now, though, I'm an adult. I can move to London if I want. I couldn't think of anything worse.
Well, the left love to talk about lived experience. And I'm telling you, my lived experience as a born and bred Londoner is that London is not the city it used to be.
Yeah, OK, if you're struggling to see your doctor, find out why you might have more chance of seeing them if you live, guess where, in a migrant hotel. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Back in a tick.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, let's speak now to Sales Director at Savills for Quinta Properties, Raquel Santos, who is live for us in Portugal. Raquel, good to see you this morning. Why are all these celebrities flocking to Portugal all of a sudden?
Yeah, I guess it's just because of basically the great lifestyle that we have, security, Portugal has kind of been a hidden, tucked away gem for quite a while that people didn't realize existed. And with the international flights that, with the American flights coming in, it's kind of been put back on the map as a country that's worth visiting and worth investing in due to the secure investments that we offer in real estate.
Raquel, is it anything to do with tax rates? Because I think capital gains tax is, I think if it's over a certain amount, you pay half of your rate, which is 28%. Capital gains on shares and cryptocurrencies is 0. Is it anything to do with that? Because over here in the UK, big storm at the moment about millionaires apparently leaving in exodus because of the mooted increases in taxes in just a few weeks.
Yes, so obviously the alterations that are happening with the UK in terms of the tax that's being implemented on the capital gains, as you mentioned, we've definitely noticed has become a big drive, mostly on the vendor side as well, who are looking to sell because they don't want to be hit, with these higher capital gains, which is close to coming into effect.
Raquel, have you noticed then millionaires, high net worth people from the UK getting in touch with you looking to relocate?
Definitely. It's for multiple reasons. Obviously, the changes that are due to come into place, obviously, and Portugal just seems to be a safe option always when things do kind of change. People opt to come into Portugal because we're quite steady, we're quite stable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Just coming up to 10 to 10 on Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News.
Now, a report claims that millions of pounds of taxpayer cash is being used to ensure that migrants being housed in hotels get access to NHS healthcare and visits. Yes, that's right, in-house visits.
Nice. Ad hoc NHS visits. Well, even more infuriating, as most hard-working Brits struggle, of course, to get a doctor's appointment. The government says the Home Office and its contractors work closely with the NHS, and decisions on individual contracts are a matter for local NHS commissioners.
Now, joining us is Executive Director at Migration Watch, Mike Jones. Mike, a lot of people at home will be quite angry seeing this.
Yes, this is a particularly shocking case, and hats off to the Daily Express for lifting the lid on this scandal. But is it surprising? No. Illegal immigrants who apply for asylum are entitled to all sorts of freebies. You know, free accommodation, free prescriptions, free dental care, free eyesight tests, transport subsidies, taxpayer-subsidised vouchers for glasses, maternity payments, cash support, and, of course, free healthcare. Now, what's happening here is that the NHS are awarding GPs contracts to turn hotel rooms into makeshift surgeries so that illegal immigrants can receive the care they need. Basically, the social contract is broken. The purpose of the NHS is to provide healthcare to British people. It's not just a form of socialised medicine, it's a system of universal healthcare designed for British people. And what really sticks to the craw here is that British taxpayers are already waiting weeks for GP appointments and, you know, sometimes close to 2 years for medical procedures. So there's a crisis in both primary and secondary healthcare, and this is making it much worse.
Mike, in one of these NHS trust areas, the elderly are having to wait up to a month for a GP appointment. Why is it that they get to actually skip the queue rather than just join the queue like everybody else in the local area? Why do they get preference over those who have paid into the system through their taxes but aren't getting the service?
Yeah, it's a topsy-turvy system, but illegal immigrants who apply for asylum are given priority for humanitarian reasons. It doesn't matter if they've destroyed their documents, if they failed to claim asylum in a safe country. It doesn't matter that they've paid, you know, sums of cash to criminal gangs. The fact is the political class will prioritise these people for so-called humanitarian reasons. And it's perverse because you've got to remember the NHS is under immense strain. You know, we've got very long waiting lists for orthopaedic surgery, you know, hip replacements, ophthalmology, you know, cataract procedures, macular degeneration, general surgery, gynecology, ENT, neurology, the list goes on. And the British state is prioritising non-citizens, lawbreakers ahead of their own people.
Mike, I thought this government was meant to be ending migrant hotels anyway. What's happened with that? I mean, they've been popping up all over the country since Labour took power.
Yeah, the number of migrant hotels has actually increased, although, you know, Labour hasn't been in office for very long. I mean, the Labour Party may actually meet that target, but you've got to remember that doesn't eliminate the costs. It merely shifts them elsewhere into the private rental sector. And you've got to remember the Labour Party have also fast-tracked a lot of these applications through the asylum system. Most of these people, I imagine, will be given leave to remain. Yeah. And of course, these people are going to be a burden on the taxpayer and on public services in the long term.
OK, Mike, thank you very much. Mike Jones, Director at Migration Watch, thanks for joining us this morning.
Goodness me, I think you'd be better off sending Granny to France and getting her to come back in a boat so that she can get an appointment quicker than within the month.
Jacqueline, on your say, you've said migrants get NHS visits, and I sat in an urgent care hub for 3 hours yesterday to see a doctor, and I'm a pensioner. I've paid tax and national insurance for 45 years. Why?
Well, I wonder how many pensioners are actually able to get at-home visits so that they don't have to go out and actually, you know, after waiting for it, you know, having to go down to the GP surgery anyway. OK, up next, the latest on the train turmoil that's brought travel to a halt all across Britain. First, though, here's your weather. Back in a tick.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office.
As we head into the weekend, Storm Dara is likely to bring some heavy rain and strong winds at times, with multiple Met Office warnings in force, and we're likely to see some disruption as we head into the weekend. To start off on Friday, though, it's almost the calm before the storm. Plenty of blue skies, lots of dry weather, just a few showers feeding in around coast of Scotland. But through into the afternoon, we will see a change as cloud spills in from the west, heavy outbreaks of rain around western coast and through into Northern Ireland. We'll start to see some very gusty winds as we head into the afternoon too. Turning milder under that cloud and rain, but along eastern areas, another chilly day on offer. Now, as we head through into the evening, those heavy outbreaks of rain are going to continue to move their way eastwards, falling as snow mainly across high ground, across parts of Scotland, also around northern parts of England too. A largely dry end to the very far northeast of Scotland, but it won't be long before that rain starts to move in. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, heavy and blustery outbreaks of rain falling as snow at times once again across higher ground. And similar elsewhere across England and Wales, a very wet end to the day and turning increasingly blustery as we head into the evening too. Multiple wind warnings out around coastal areas and through into inland areas as well. Heavy outbreaks of rain sweeping their way across the country. Still heavy at times overnight and still falling as snow mainly in northern areas too, and turning very blustery, particularly around western coasts. And it is going to be a chilly night on offer, particularly in those very brisk winds. So a very unsettled start to the weekend. Once again, we'll see those outbreaks of rain sweep across the country, still heavy at times and still falling as snow across northern areas. But we're going to also see very strong winds, a risk of gales, if not severe gales at times, across Northern Ireland, western coasts of England and Wales too, where there is an amber warning in force. And it is going to feel particularly chilly in the brisk winds. Bye for now.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Delays and cancellations are possible to a number of train services this morning because of a nationwide technical problem affecting communication between train drivers and signal workers. In Clackmannanshire, the A91 is partly blocked each way by an accident between Tillycoultry and Dollar, causing delays. In Belfast, the A2 is blocked eastbound by an accident off junction 1 of the M3, causing queues heading out of the city. The M55 in Lancashire is partly blocked eastbound by an accident between junctions 2 and 1 north of Preston, causing delays. Buses replace trains between Leeds and Doncaster, Shipley and Nottingley because of overhead line problems. In West Yorkshire, the A64 is closed eastbound out of Leeds because of an accident. In Northamptonshire on the A14, there's a lane closed eastbound at junction 9 near Kettering after a car broke down with queues from junction 8. And in Hertfordshire, the A10's closed northbound at Cheshunt where a fallen lamppost hit a car.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player app. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 a.m. on Friday the 6th of December. Live across the United Kingdom, this is Britain's Newsroom with me, Emma Trimble and Ben Leo.
Very good morning to you, hope you're well. Train travel turmoil, trains delayed all across the country due to a nationwide fault across 4 major lines as passengers are told to get taxis.
Yikes. And arise, Sir Sadiq Khan. The London mayor looks set to receive a knighthood next year for his political and public service. And for good measure, Emily Thornberry MP is also in the running to get one as well.
Reform UK leader Nigel Farage clashed with Labour Minister Jackie Smith, the presenter Fiona Bruce and Alistair Campbell on the BBC last night. Take a listen to him clashing with the Tory MP Kelvin Hollinrake on immigration too.
You haven't got a cat's chance in hell of winning that general election. Shame on you for what you've done. It was willful, it was deceptive, it was deliberate, and it was wrong.
And Sir Keir Starmer is off on his travels again, this time to Scotland, meeting with the devolved nations to discuss net zero and climate change goals.
Keir Starmer's in Scotland, but back in London, will his milestones actually work and how testing are they?
And batten down the hatches because Britain is about to be battered by heavy winds and rain as a weather warning has been issued for Storm Dara. Are these alerts just more nanny state or essential for public safety?
France in chaos. President Emmanuel Macron defies calls to step down as president as we say au revoir to Prime Minister Michel Barnier. We'll have the latest. Well, we were just having a really interesting talk about those NHS visits to migrants.
Oh, yes. Very good. Very good.
Lots of people very unhappy about that, it would seem, at home.
Come one and all to the land of milk and honey, free dentistry, healthcare, food, spending money every week on a little card from the Home Office. It's great. Then you'll eventually get some housing. Then your asylum claim will eventually be accepted or left in limbo for so long that you have to stay here anyway because you've got a family and children. It's great. Meanwhile,
terribly cushy.
Our hard-working pensioners who have grafted for decades and decades, you're stuck in queues at the doctors and at the hospitals for years on end to get treated. So, yeah, what's not to like about that?
You do wonder what you would think if you were somebody who's, you know, the few who are still alive who fought in the war, having paid into the system all your life, having worked really hard and fought to create a better country, and then you see that people can just come in over the channel, jump the queue and get benefits that you just wouldn't even dream of while you're having to sell your house to pay for your care.
OK, well, elsewhere, big rail disruption on the trains. Let us know if you've had your journey disrupted today. Are you WFH? Are you work from home or have you cancelled any plans? gbnews.com/your say. Big show coming up, but first your news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. It is fast approaching 4 minutes past 10. Let's start with the latest update on that travel chaos this morning, with commuters across the country describing scenes of pandemonium as disruptions grip the UK. That follows a nationwide fault sparked major disruption across the entire network. National Rail has confirmed the issue is affecting communication between train drivers and signallers, leading to delays, cancellations and altered services. The fault is impacting key routes, including the Elizabeth Line, Gatwick Express and South Eastern. Passengers are now being warned to expect longer waits and are being urged to check live departure boards before setting off. Some travellers are also advised to allow for extra time for their journeys or book taxis as the situation unfolds. In other news, the Prime Minister has insisted there is no plan for further tax rises, but hasn't ruled out changes if crises like COVID or the war in Ukraine arise. It comes as Sir Keir Starmer defends his plan for change speech yesterday, amid claims he was watering down election promises. Among the milestones announced, higher living standards across the UK, safer streets with more police and 1.5 million new homes. He claims his 6 new targets will let the public hold Labour's feet to the fire. And today he's set to meet devolved leaders in Edinburgh with net zero and clean energy top of the agenda. More than 1,600 people have been arrested across England and Wales this week in a major crackdown on county lines drug dealing. More than £3 million in drugs, £2 million in cash and 550 weapons were seized. Police say they also shut down 260 county lines and safeguarded over 1,400 people. Nearly half of them were children. The Met's counter-terrorism unit is urging people to trust their instincts this festive season and stay vigilant. With major events like Christmas markets, football matches and carol services drawing large crowds, officers in London are urging the public to report anything they may think is suspicious. Each year, over 10,000 reports are made to counter-terrorism policing, with a fifth providing crucial intelligence to disrupt potential threats. The Chief Superintendent of the Met Force says the public's role is vital, with over 40 terrorist plots disrupted since 2017. A man has died after being attacked by a fighting dog in East London, with a woman now facing multiple charges. Police were called to Stratford early on Wednesday morning, where the 42-year-old was found seriously injured and later died in hospital. Leanne McDonnell is charged with owning a dangerous dog that caused his death and several related offences, including neglecting the animal's welfare. Well, the 32-year-old's also facing charges over a separate incident last month involving dogs that were dangerously out of control. An alternative healer who promised self-cure through controversial slapping therapy is being sentenced today for manslaughter following the death of a 71-year-old woman. Danielle Cargom died in October 2016 after stopping her insulin medication during a workshop run by Hong Chi Zhao. The court heard that she had been convinced that Zhao's claims called him a messenger sent by God. The elderly woman was reportedly howling in pain before she died, while Zhao continued to promote his unproven method of self-healing. The acclaimed self-healer, who has no medical qualifications, was convicted in July and will be sentenced later today. UK house prices have hit new record highs, with the average home now costing £298,000. Halifax says property values rose 1.3% in November. That's the biggest monthly increase this year and now the fifth rise in a row. Annual house price growth also jumped to 4.8%. That's the strongest rate since November 2022. Experts say there is no sign of the market cooling. And scientists at the University of Cambridge have developed a groundbreaking urine test that could detect lung cancer in its earliest stages. The innovative test identifies proteins released by zombie cells, damaged cells that may trigger cancer development. Well, already successful in mice, researchers say they're now excited to begin human trials, offering a promising, cost-effective alternative to expensive scans. With earlier detection, patients could receive treatment sooner, giving them a better chance of survival. Backed by Cancer Research UK, the breakthrough could transform cancer detection. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in around half an hour. Now, though, it's back to Ben and Emma.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam, and welcome back to you, lovely viewers at home. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with me, Ben Leo, and Emma Trimble today in the hot seat for Nana. How's your week been, Emma?
Well, I think I actually got one of those awful respiratory things that's been going around. But it's all the better for being here now. Yes, sorry, I'm going to make everybody around me very, very sick.
Oh.
No,
I'll just sit over here if that's okay.
Keep your distance, man. Keep your distance. But no, I mean, it's all the better for being here. I love this show.
Yeah, I think
it's a special place in my heart, Britain's Newsroom.
I think there is something going around. I had something on Friday where I'd try and go to sleep, and the coughing was just driving my wife insane.
I do not know anybody who hasn't had it. So
yeah.
It's obviously something's doing the rounds, but very happy to be here keeping Nana's seat warm for her.
Indeed. Lovely to have you. Lots of views coming in on your say, not least about the Sadiq Khan and the mooted honoured knighthood that the Mayor of London is going to get. Does he deserve it? Well, you haven't pulled your punches on your say. June, you said, I'd love to visit London, but since Khan took over, it's become a cesspit of crime, and the continual pro-Palestine marches for over a year or so, taking over the streets every Saturday, is just off-putting. And Grumpy Grandad, good morning to you. You said, I lived in London for 25 years. I never felt unsafe, and we had the IRA trying to bomb us on a regular basis. I went back recently, though, and Khan has destroyed our capital. Nowhere feels safe now.
That's exactly how I feel. We've also got lots coming in on the NHS story of doctors doing at-home visits to migrant hotels. So Stuart has said in Wales it's 3 weeks to get a doctor's appointment, 3 weeks to get x-rays. He was referred for a hospital scan on his hip and now is in week 12 waiting for that appointment. He said, I reckon 2 years before he even gets an appointment to deal with that. So I think people are really suffering all around the country and are quite angry at the injustice of this.
And Carl, you've said, come on, Ben and Emma, please use the correct language on Khan's school meals. They are not free, they are funded by the taxpayer. Indeed, Carl, the best example of no such thing as a free lunch. Quite right. Right, let's move on. National Rail are warning that a nationwide fault is affecting rail services across the country this morning.
ScotRail, South Western Railway, London North Western Railway, Thameslink, Southern Rail and the Elizabeth Line are all affected.
Well, Len Shackleton is a rail expert from the Institute of Economic Affairs and he joins us now. Len, good morning to you. What's going on this morning then?
Hello.
Commuter chaos at the busiest time of the morning.
Yes, well, there's always something, isn't there? This appears to be, there is a relatively new system which was installed. It's called a Global System for Mobile Communications. And it links signallers to the drivers in the cab. And it's clear it's an expensive business. I think it cost about $1.5 billion to install. It made us compatible with European train systems and so forth, but it appears to have somehow or other had a major glitch today, which has. I mean, it's not imperiling safety in any way. I mean, there's a workaround apparently where drivers can manually load onto the system, and there is also a failback of trackside signals which could be used. So there's no real danger, but it's just yet another hassle with the railways, and I can understand the frustration. I'm at home today, but you know, most days when I go in on the trains, there's some kind of disruption, and this is just not what we need.
Oh yeah.
Particularly this week, I think we've seen the bill go through Parliament to take the franchises back into public ownership. It's probably not the best way of celebrating this development. I don't know what Heidi Alexander thinks about it.
Yeah.
Len, is there a possibility that this is not just an accident, that maybe this is an instance of hacking, maybe some kind of foreign interference?
Yeah, I mean, that's crossed my mind as well. And I think we are very aware of how, hostile powers or hostile individuals may want to subvert these systems, because we're increasingly dependent, of course, on this type of communication system for everything we do, and it is rather worrying. And I think we need to boost defence spending generally, I think, but we do need to make sure that we've got enough people working on protecting our systems like this, so that we don't suffer these annoying disruptions.
OK, Len, thanks for that. Appreciate the update. Yeah, that was my first thought, Emma, as well. Is it a cyber hack? Not Russia necessarily, but is it a cyber attack somehow? We had the incidents, was it last week or the week before, with the packages found at Euston, was it Gatwick, somewhere up north as well?
And there was also a story about how there was a potential, Russian electronic attack on the horizon. So who knows?
Yeah.
But if it is an accident, you do have to wonder why it seems that we, of all the European countries, seem to be so plagued by problems like this, because everybody's constantly having their days wrecked trying to get to work.
Yeah, as Len said, the trains are knackered at the worst of times, let alone with something going wrong with the communications situation. There's some breaking news just coming into the newsroom at the moment. The Met Office has issued a rare red weather warning for wind. That's as Storm Dara approaches the UK.
The warning is in place from 3 a.m. until 11 a.m. tomorrow and covers western and southern coastal regions of Wales.
Red weather warnings are the most serious type of warning and are only issued when potentially life-threatening weather is expected imminently. We'll have more on this throughout the show, and I guess if there's going to be severe weather tomorrow, you could expect the trains to be maybe delayed or interrupted with yet again if they've not already fixed that problem.
Trains didn't need any help to not be running today, I don't think.
No, definitely not. OK, moving on. So Keir Starmer and the devolved nations are discussing the financial action plan to tackle climate change today. Political editor Christopher Hope joins us now to update us on what's going on. Hello, Chris. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Were you OK getting in this morning? Any train chaos?
Yeah, fine. No problem, actually. I'm on the Thames Link line, so I'm nervous about getting home now.
Didn't get blown into the canal on your way to the studio?
No, it was certainly blowy.
Right.
And it was blowy in Pinewood Studios yesterday, where I was there for this launch of this plan for change for Sir Keir Starmer.
So these are these milestones that he's set out for himself. Are they going to turn out to be millstones?
I think if you go through them, some are harder than others. I mean, lifting living standards, every parliament does that. That should be a shoo-in, probably. Police back on the beat, 13,000. There are only 3,000 are new officers. Lots of them are PCSO specials, part-timers. 3/4 of 5-year-olds ready to learn when they get to school. That's probably achievable as the COVID pandemic falls away and we have and children are better schooled at home. I think the ones I'm watching are two of them, putting the UK on track to 95% of clean power by 2030. That is a change since the summer. The manifesto, you might remember, was 100% of clean power by then. It's an issue I raised with Ed Miliband, who's the climate change secretary, on this very point. Has he watered down this target? Here's what he had to say. Quick question. Have you watered down your commitment to 100% clean energy by 2030?
No, because when we launched the pledge, when we launched the whole mission, we said there will be a small strategic gas backup reserve. The National Energy System Operator, a couple of weeks ago, set out what a clean power system was, and this is their definition.
And nothing there about cutting bills by £300. You mentioned that in the election period. Nothing in here?
It's the document says very clearly it's about lowering bills for good. We are absolutely convinced that this will lower bills. This is absolutely what this is all about.
And all these easy targets, you haven't included migration, a big one that is hard to control for all governments.
I think these are really difficult targets. Look, these are really challenging targets. 18-week waiting, hasn't been done for a very long time in the NHS. 1.5 million homes hasn't been done for a long time. A clean power system hasn't been done ever in the UK. So the idea that these are easy targets, no, quite the opposite. These are challenging, but I think it gives the public a sense of what this government's priorities are, and also a sense of optimism, actually. I think in these targets is an optimism about what we can achieve.
And you can get there finally with no more big tax rises.
Absolutely. We've set out, Rachel set out in the budget her plan and her fiscal plans, and that's very clear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed Miliband.
Ed Miliband there. I mean, he did highlight those two big targets. 1.5 million new homes in England, fast-tracking planning. That's a lot of new homes, given the net migration should be around 300,000 a year in that period. That number of migrants who arriving here would soak up that entire target of 1.5 million, and it's testing anyway. I think the big one, which many viewers and listeners would welcome, frankly, is ensuring that 9 out of 10 of us get treated within 18 weeks on the NHS. Currently, it's down at 6 in 10. So if the £22 billion they've raised the NHS in that big tax hike in the budget has any benefit, that'll be good for us all.
Is he setting himself up to fail?
Well, three of the 6 are really hard. And we're going to hold them to account. But what's not in there is nothing on cutting the benefits bill.
And nothing on immigration.
Well, and crucially, as we said there with Ed Miliband, nothing on immigration, because they want to reduce illegal and legal migration, but reducing it is not a target like under 100,000 with the Tory party. Reform UK says 0. They say they can have net zero net migration. Of course, the small boats are still coming here, and the Tories said they would stop those boats. None of those so tough targets are not there on those two areas.
So, just to clarify, you'll be treated on the NHS within 18 weeks?
Yes.
So that's 4.5 months?
Not much of a target, is it?
But
I mean, is that accurate?
Ben,
is that right?
Yes, Ben. But currently, 6 in 10 are treated in 18 weeks. So it's even longer for nearly half the population than 18 weeks. So yes, I agree, it's a low starting point, and one might hope that as this money starts to come through, they can improve that target. But it's not good.
Smoke and mirrors.
I mean, I'm just shocked. A target of being seen within 4.5 months to be treated.
Well, never mind that. No commitment on the one thing.
People are in pain for a long time waiting for treatment, and that is shocking.
I mean,
and no commitment on the one thing that people really want a commitment on, which is immigration.
OK,
there we are.
Thanks, Chopper. I just don't know what to say. I mean, and also Christopher talking there about when net migration is down to 300,000. I'm just thinking, hang on a minute. Down
doesn't work.
300,000 as if that's a good thing. Anyway, we move on.
Here at GB News, we'd love to hear what you think. And every day we'll be running our poll of the day. The Financial Times has said that London Mayor Sadiq Khan has been drafted on a list for inclusion in the New Year's honours. So we would like to know, should Sadiq Khan receive a knighthood?
Let us know your thoughts. We'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure to stay tuned. The final results will be announced in Martin Daubney's show from 3 o'clock.
For all of our latest polls, news and how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/poll.
OK, up next, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage. Did you see this last night? He clashed with Alistair Campbell on BBC Question Time.
I was disappointed Keir didn't mention Brexit, because I think Brexit has done so much damage to this country. Well, I'm sorry, Nick. I'm sorry. Nigel doesn't want to accept.
You are the worst loser in history, Alistair.
No.
Get over it. It's 8 years ago.
Nigel,
Move on.
No,
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
1 in 20 people are diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder across the UK.
Yes, Healthwatch has revealed that men are more likely to suffer from this than women. Did you know?
Triggers apparently include a decrease in daylight hours, which is certainly happening around about now. If you're leaving the office, it's dark. When you come home, it's dark, as well as the falling temperatures.
Yes, and both of those things happen a lot, don't they, here in Britain? So how can we combat the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder? Well, to discuss this, we're joined now by Dr. Andreas Fonseca, the founder and director of Thrive Mental Wellbeing. Really good to see you this morning, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, there'll be lots of people watching and listening this morning and saying, what a load of rubbish. It's always been cold in this country. It's always been dark. What is seasonal affective disorder? Is it really a thing?
Well, it is a thing, and it's been known for quite some time. This is not new, really. It is a form of depression. That's what it is. And it's got specific characteristics that kind of differentiate it from other forms of depression. So the reason probably we're talking more about it is because it's basically people are more aware of it and they're recognizing it more. So before you used to be sort of just saying this person's got depression, now you have some specific things to look at that can differentiate it from other kinds of depression, which is quite useful because it's got some specific forms of treatment. So the things that are different about seasonal affective disorder are that for the diagnosis you need 2 years in which you only have episodes during either the late autumn or early winter. So that's when they start, and they fade away by late spring, summer. Early summer. So that's how it works. And you cannot have any episodes at any other time. So it has to be seasonal, specifically seasonal.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 23 minutes past 10. This is Britain's Newsroom with me, Emma Trimble and Ben Leo. We're joined now by political commentator Samuel Sweek and journalist Claire Muldoon. in the studio for our papers this morning.
Morning, both.
Morning. How are you doing?
How's it going?
Good.
How's your week gone?
It's been...
I'm keen to know
I got a
everyone's been.
massive celebration, an early Christmas present last night. One of my kids returned from Australia, completely out of the blue, so I am right on cloud nine. She's home for Christmas.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is super news.
Where had they been? How old are they?
She was in Australia. She's 25. She completely surprised me, turned up at work, and that was it. I am just made up. We were expecting her back on the 29th, but she's home now.
Claire, that's amazing. Did you, were the waterworks on? Did you cry?
Yes. The woman who never cries, I cried.
Oh, well
a lot.
Did you do that, Samuel?
I can't. that's just like the movies. That I've just.
It really
It's a
was.
run-of-the-mill week for me.
What's your daughter's name?
Stephanie.
Hello, Stephanie. Well done. Good daughter. Brownie points.
Stephanie.
Right, let's get stuck into some news stories. The big situation last night was Farage on Question Time, of course.
It sounds like a boxing match, doesn't it?
Yeah, he obviously...
It was versus them all, I think.
Did you watch it?
I watched parts of it, and I thought he was the one lone voice on the panel. He really was. He completely annihilated Alistair Campbell, in my view, and Holland Rake as well. I mean, because he does speak what he feels from the heart.
Let's take a look at his exchange with Kevin Holland-Rake of the Tories. Let's have a look.
You will never be forgiven for it. You haven't got a cat's chance in hell of winning the general election. Shame on you for what you've done. It was willful, it was deceptive, it was deliberate, and it was wrong.
It's very prime ministerial, I thought, don't you think? You think he gave them a bit of a beating there, Samuel? I'm sure you disagree with what he said.
Well, yeah, but I think it's, you know, the Tories' record speaks for itself over the last 14 years. There's many a stick to beat them with. You know, think what you like of him. You know, Farage is a great communicator and a great debater. I agree with literally everything that comes out of his mouth. I don't actually think he offers the solutions that our country needs. But Holland Rake's record and the Tory government's record speaks for itself, and the country's in a terrible state. Are you saying that you agree that migration has been too high under the Conservatives? No, I don't actually. No, I think that the political debate and the political consensus now, even with Labour in power, is a race to the bottom that actually offers no solutions to any of the problems, and it places a lot of blame on people whose fault, like the issues that our country faces. It's not the fault of immigrants, it's the fault of a failing political class to actually address those issues.
Well, I don't think, Samuel, anyone has a personal thing against immigrants. I mean, nobody really blames them, it's the system. I mean, Claire, what do you think? I mean, I don't blame people for wanting a better life, and I think there are very few genuine asylum seekers, let's be clear about that. But the people who do come here for a job and to send money back and for a better life, I don't blame them, I blame the system. Well, of course, it's the system. The system's absolutely broken. It's been broken under Conservatives, and Labour Keir Starmer didn't even mention how he was going to tackle it in his governance 2 days ago and yesterday in his talk. But the issue is, I mean, you've got 500 rape alarms being issued to young women working in Home Office-run hotels. The hotels themselves are not fit for purpose. I wouldn't like anyone to live in any accommodation like that. But the reality is, in local authority housing in this country, you've got damp, you've got mould, you've got issues with cleanliness, you've got issues with landlords not doing what they're supposed to do, and landlords being local authorities and housing associations as well. You've got kids dying. Remember, 2 years ago, there was a report of that young lad who died in Croydon because of the housing situation. We cannot fix and we cannot help anyone coming into this country without the basic point of actually helping us just now. And a lot of those people who are coming over are young males, but if they're going into these migrant hotels, it's also not safe, is it, for the women and children who are staying in those migrant hotels? No, it's not. It's not. If I, as a mother of 4, when the kids were at school, wanted to accompany them for school trips, I had to get DB checked. I mean, and yet you're putting your housing illegal immigrants or people who have not been processed yet, so we don't know if they're seeking asylum or they are illegal, in accommodation in this country with people, with young families and vulnerable people. By the nature of the fact they're here, they're vulnerable. And we should be protecting and then that. Just by the way, you said it's unsafe for people staying in the hotels. It's also very unsafe for the British people working in the hotels. We can't talk about it in too much depth because it's an ongoing case, but in October, of course, the poor woman was stabbed to death in a migrant hotel. Rhiannon Sky White was her name.
And wouldn't exactly feel safe if I was somebody who was living around one of them either, not knowing who was coming out to my community.
we have to be really careful here about language, because there was people who are lambasted for being racist. If you say you're anti-immigration, that is not the specific qualification to make you a racist, because you don't accept the fact that
is that
people
right?
want to come into the country.
If you're anti-immigration, do you equate that to bigotry or racism?
I don't know. I feel like the political classes actually have a lot to answer for in terms of that label. I think that people are right to be concerned about their communities, but I think a lot of the blame is placed unfairly at the feet of people coming to this country for whatever reason, whether that be fleeing poverty, war, persecution, or not. But the main fundamental issue is that I also would like to, by the way, see the end of migrant hotels. I think that it's completely unfair and completely improper. And
what would you do with them, Simon? Because maybe Stockholm. Sam, sorry. What would you do with them?
What would I do with them? I would house them. I would give them the same rights as
in what houses?
Well, this is exactly
all those ones that Labour are going to build, of course.
Yeah, but this is exactly the point: is that the issues of the day here are political failures. It's not a failure of people who are coming to this country.
But Sam, the reality is that if you just look at this, so this other story today in the Telegraph, that Reform has overtaken Labour in a national poll for the first time. The people of this country, they agree with Nigel Farage.
Well, look, the thing about that is that Labour have lent very heavily into Tory and Reform lines on this issue. It's very, very hard to actually differentiate between if you were to just look at a quote without saying, attributing a name to it. You've got Keir talking about Tories' open border policy, which is frankly, that doesn't exist. That's never been the case. We've got, quite a disgraceful and punitive and unfair
Well, it was, of course, Tony Blair who first opened the floodgates.
Right. But what the point I'm making is that we've not had an open borders policy in this country.
Come on, everything but.
The borders are effectively open, though, aren't they, Claire? They are effectively open, because we've got no idea who's coming in. You can just come across the channel, get into the country.
It's not even just coming across the channel, Emma. You have got the situation. I've spoken to Border Force officials and people presenting at the border after taking a flight. All they have to say is, I'm seeking asylum, and that's it. It's triggered, the clock's on the go, and they're then let out. They're almost let out into the ether because they can't track them.
Never mind all those people who throw their passports into the channel on their way here.
Yes, but we've got more than coming over from on the boats. You've got the people coming in from aeroplanes. We're an island, we're exposed. We need to deal with it. And it's down to processing. There is no clear consent rules about processing. There are no centres to process people, and you find the backlog then is going to have a knock-on effect, as it is, on pure things like housing, the healthcare system, and the fiscal drag it's going to cause the problems in society today.
OK, good stuff.
It's a huge issue.
You'll be back in the next hour for more stories. First, though, let's get your news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. It's just after 10:30. Well, let's start with some breaking weather news for you. The UK is bracing for life-threatening winds as the Met Office has in the last half hour or so issued a rare red weather alert for Storm Dara. Gusts of over 90 miles an hour are set to batter Wales and southern England from 3 o'clock on Saturday morning, with warnings of flying debris, falling trees and dangerous waves. Power cuts, damaged buildings and travel chaos are also expected as the storm tears through. Amber warnings also cover much of the country, with severe winds lingering well into the rest of this weekend. Train chaos is continuing to grip the UK this morning after a nationwide fault sparked major disruption across the entire network. National Rail has confirmed the issue was caused by a hardware upgrade to their communication system between train drivers and signallers, leading to those delays, many cancellations and altered services. The fault is still impacting key routes, including the Elizabeth Line, Gatwick Express and South Eastern. Passengers are being warned to expect longer waits and are being urged to check live departure boards before they set off. Travellers have been urged and advised to allow for extra time for their journeys and possibly book taxis if needed. The Prime Minister insists there's no plan for further tax rises, but hasn't ruled out possible changes if crises like COVID or the war in Ukraine arise. It comes as Sir Keir Starmer's defending his plan for change speech yesterday, amid claims he's watering down election promises. Well, among the milestones announced, higher living standards across the UK, safer streets with more police and 1.5 million new homes. He claims his 6 new targets will let the public hold Labour's feet to the fire. Today, he's set to meet devolved leaders in Edinburgh with net zero and clean energy top of the agenda. The Metropolitan Police's counter-terrorism unit has issued a warning for people to trust their instincts and stay vigilant this festive season. With major events like Christmas markets, football matches and carol services drawing large crowds, officers in the capital are urging the public to report anything suspicious. Well, each year, over 10,000 reports are made to counter-terrorism policing, with a fifth providing crucial intelligence to disrupt potential threats. The Chief Superintendent of the Met Force says the public's role is vital, with over 40 terrorist plots disrupted since 2017. And the Princess of Wales is hosting her annual carol service at Westminster Abbey this evening as part of her gradual return to royal duties after cancer treatment. This year's Together at Christmas event celebrates love and empathy, with 1,600 guests invited who have supported others. And in a letter to attendees ahead of tonight's service, Kate said, "Love is the light that can shine bright even in our darkest times." Performers from Gregory Porter and Paloma Faith will feature, alongside special readings from stars like Richard E. Grant and Adam Peaty. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you at the top of the hour. Now, though, it's back over to Ben and Emma.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Up next, a rare red weather warning has been issued as Storm Dara is set to batter Britain. More on that in a moment. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into the weekend, Storm Dara is likely to bring some heavy rain and strong winds at times, with multiple Met Office warnings in force, and we're likely to see some disruption as we head into the weekend. To start off on Friday, though, it's almost the calm before the storm. Plenty of blue skies, lots of dry weather, just a few showers feeding in around coast of Scotland. But through into the afternoon, we will see a change as cloud spills in from the west, heavy outbreaks of rain around western coast and through into Northern Ireland. And we'll start to see some very gusty winds as we head into the afternoon too. Turning milder under that cloud and rain, but along eastern areas, another chilly day on offer. Now, as we head through into the evening, those heavy outbreaks of rain are going to continue to move their way eastwards, falling as snow mainly across high ground, across parts of Scotland, also around northern parts of England too. A largely dry end to the very far northeast of Scotland, but it won't be long before that rain starts to move in. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, heavy and blustery outbreaks of rain falling as snow at times once again across higher ground. And similar elsewhere across England and Wales, a very wet end to the day and turning increasingly blustery as we head into the evening too. Multiple wind warnings out around coastal areas and through into inland areas as well. Heavy outbreaks of rain sweeping their way across the country. Still heavy at times overnight and still falling as snow mainly in northern areas too, and turning very blustery, particularly around western coasts. And it is going to be a chilly night on offer, particularly in those very brisk winds. So a very unsettled start to the weekend. Once again, we'll see those outbreaks of rain sweep across the country, still heavy at times and still falling as snow across northern areas. But we're going to also see very strong winds, a risk of gales, if not severe gales at times, across Northern Ireland, western coasts of England and Wales too, where there is an amber warning in force. And it is going to feel particularly chilly in the brisk winds. Bye for now.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. There are delays and cancellations to a number of train services this morning because of a nationwide technical problem affecting communication between train drivers and signal workers. In Clackmannanshire, the A91 is partly blocked each way by an accident between Tillyculture and Dollar, causing delays. Buses replaced trains between Leeds and Doncaster, Shipley and Nottingley because of overhead line problems. In West Yorkshire, the A64 is partly blocked eastbound by an accident off the A653 east of Leeds, causing delays. In Powys, the A490 is closed closed each way along Airport Road off the A483 at Coed because of flooding. In Hertfordshire, the A10 is closed northbound from Winston Churchill Way to College Road in Cheshunt for repairs after a lamppost fell on a car, causing delays. And Hover Travel sailings to and from the Isle of Wight is suspended between Southsea and Ryde because of a technical problem.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Welcome back. 10:38. Ben and Emma with you on Britain's Newsroom, only on GB News. Now, some breaking news this morning. We've had this hour, actually. The Met Office has issued a rare red weather warning for wind.
Tongue twister.
I got it, though. I nailed it.
Red weather warning.
That's as Storm Dara approaches the UK.
The warning is in place from 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. tomorrow and covers the western and southern coastal regions of Wales.
Red weather warnings are the most serious type of warning and are only issued when potentially life-threatening weather is expected imminently.
And more of these weather warnings even inevitable. So joining us now to discuss that is the Director of Climate Media Coalition, Storm Donica McCarthy, and Head of Policy and the Head of the Policy and Global Warming Policy Foundation, the Head of Policy at the Global Warming Policy Foundation. It's all tongue twisters today. Harry Wilkinson, thank you so much for joining us. Now I've managed to get my words out. So let's start with you, Harry. Is this nanny statery constantly giving us these weather warnings rather than people just, popping their head out the window and seeing what the weather's doing?
Well, firstly, I would certainly advise people to be very careful in this storm and to follow the official advice. I think people should take those seriously. But, when we're looking at the bigger picture and thinking, how much of these events related to climate change, we should be careful before jumping to conclusions. When you look at what the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says about tropical storms at a global level, storminess, they don't conclude, or at least there's low confidence in any trends at a global level. So it's important that we look at the research. These trends can take some time to emerge, but certainly storminess and these kind of storms may be a prediction that some climate scientists are making about the future. But we have to remember that actually the world today is one that's far more resilient to these kind of events. The number of people dying in extreme weather events has thankfully come down massively, and that's thanks to better innovations, better emergency services, and the kind of lifestyles that we live today, and the technology we have, making us much more robust. So, these are a risk. Yeah. People should be very careful, but we should put them in perspective.
OK, come on then, Donica, because I know you're going to blame climate change. How many electric vehicles do we need to buy? How much meat do we need to stop eating to stave off this storm?
Well, I'm not going to follow Harry's line that we should not ignore the warnings. There are storms. There always have been storms, like Storm Dara is coming in today. He's absolutely right. We do need to be... the warning is to help save lives. What red warnings like this will do will alert HGV drivers to be careful crossing the river, crossing the Severn. It will warn farmers to protect their livestock. It will warn homeowners to protect themselves against flooding. And Harry's wrong about the science. Over the last 20 years, the rainfall in the UK has increased. The Met Office has said for every 1 degree rise in temperature, rainfall goes up around 7%. Temperatures have gone up 1.4 degrees and rainfall has gone up 10%. What has this resulted in? More homes being flooded, more farms being flooded, and this year farmers lost 20% of their crops due to extreme weather. So what we do need is to listen to the warnings about storms like Storm Dara, and we do need to listen to the warnings from climate scientists to act to reduce our carbon emissions.
But Harry, we've seen with a lot of this flooding that we've seen recently, people have been posting pictures of blocked drains in their area. Surely a lot of this flooding isn't down to the fact that we're experiencing more storms, we're experiencing more rainfall, but just simply that we're not taking care of the drainage properly that stops areas from being flooded.
And the rivers.
Well, how we manage that, of course, how we manage land has an important impact on how damaging these kind of events can be. And I think that's where people would like to see spending prioritised, is on flood defences, is on practical measures that can actually make the country more resilient to this kind of extreme weather. What they don't want is the government to engage on a pie-in-the-sky plan to completely decarbonise the grid by 2030. That plan seems to be unravelling, to be forced to buy electric vehicles, to be forced to buy heat pumps. These kind of compulsory policies are not where the public's priority lies. Where they do want to see that spending is in the kind of flood defences that might make a difference in these cases.
Go on, Donica.
The billionaire oil companies who fund Global Warming Policy Foundation want us to not act on climate change, and then they want us to pay the prices. What Harry's just said is he wants the public to invest billions, which we do have to. I agree with him. We do have to spend billions on flood protection. And what Emma just said, I don't understand, Emma. I just outlined what the Metro Office said. 1.4 degree rise equals 10% more rain. That's exactly what's happened. Do you
Over what period, sorry, Donica, was that increase in rain and the temperature rise? Over how many years?
Yeah, it was compared to the 30 years up to 1990 and to the 30
years.
It was compared over a 30-year period, pre-1990 to post-1990.
So you're taking a 30-year period. How many years has Earth existed? You're taking 30 years, a small snapshot, and then using that data to conclude that it's man-made climate change. Is that right?
No, I'm actually talking about basic physics.
Now, I just want to say...
Basic physics, it means that if you increase the temperature of a room by 1%, you increase the ability to have moisture in it by 7%.
Regardless...
That's exactly what the scientists predicted and exactly what's happening.
Regardless, it's common sense to do things like making sure that the drainage is clear and that drains are not blocked and that rivers are properly dredged and we have proper flood defences. But we need to let Harry come back on that point about the Global Warming Policy Foundation.
Thank you. Yeah, we are not funded by fossil fuel companies. They wouldn't want to fund us necessarily either. We've not had those offers come in, and we wouldn't accept them if we did. So that's something that Donica claims every time. He has no evidence for that, but he keeps spouting these lies, unfortunately. However, it's true that a warmer atmosphere will hold more moisture, but that doesn't necessarily reflect in the climate patterns in terms of storms, floods. Those are very complex processes, and we have to look at the evidence to see whether that's actually translating into these very severe storms. And it's not a sensible approach to jump to these conclusions without having the evidence to show that actually these things are becoming more frequent.
All right, we're running out of time. We're running out of time, unfortunately. Thank you both for your contributions. Donica McCarthy and Harry Wilkinson, thank you very much.
Now, up next, are you Christmas party ready? TV presenter Craig Doyle will be here to run us through his top tips for a merry time. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
But it turns out there's a growing number of grandparents who are now taking up the hobby.
And not all of them are male. 7 million gamers are aged over 50, 7 million of them. And we're going to introduce you to one this morning. Her name's Kath Bowie. She's 76 years of age, and Kath has become a worldwide star of the game Fortnite. Good to see you, Kath.
Hello, good morning to both of you.
And tell me this, Kath, is Bowie your real name?
Bowie. Yeah.
Bowie.
Yes, it is my real name, yes.
And you do it a Bowie and not a Bowie?
It's a Bowie, yes, definitely Bowie, yes.
Bowie or Bowie?
Bowie.
Bowie.
But that's not what the Jim Bowie was called, or Jim Bowie was called in the Alamo. He was a Bowie.
No, but that's what I'm called, Kath Bowie.
She's their own superstar.
You are your own superstar. You are indeed. Well, so we're led to believe, Kath, that there's nobody else like you, or very few people like you, but there is. There is lots of people your age, your stage, doing what you do.
Yes, there's not a lot that streams. Okay, Fortnite, but there's definitely plenty that plays. Any game, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be Fortnite. It can be any game.
So, Kath, how did you get started in all of this?
Oh yeah, well, it's 7 years ago actually. I walked into my teenage grandson's bedroom and just saw him playing what I now know, of course, and what I play is Fortnite. And that was the very first week that Epic had released it. And it was just really love at first sight.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 11, just about. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News with me, Ben Leo, and, of course, Emma Trimble. What does the ultimate, Emma, Christmas party look like to you?
Well, I think there should be lots of children running around, but I think you disagree, don't you, Ben?
No, my worst nightmare. We were talking about this to do with weddings. Was it weddings we were talking about? No, we banned children from our wedding, apart from our own kids, of course.
We begged people to bring theirs.
Yeah. So you think children make it? Well, apparently...
Children make Christmas. What are you talking about?
I know, but a boozy Christmas party? With kids running around?
Send them to bed early.
Because the joy, apparently, of hosting can sometimes turn quickly to stress as the worry of pleasing everyone and ensuring a good time is had by all quickly takes over.
But fear not, because television presenter Craig Doyle is here to tell us how we can have a jolly Merry Christmas. Craig.
Morning, Craig.
Hi, how are you both? Emma, 43% of the British population say your parties are not great.
I know. What a load of Grinches we all are.
I know. 43% say the recipe for a bad Christmas party is to bring children.
Yeah.
There you go.
So what is the recipe for a good Christmas party?
Well, you know something? Just bring them. Just get a bouncy castle, a covered bouncy castle, and just leave them out there.
Lock them out in the cold.
They'll be absolutely fine. They'll be absolutely fine. But yeah, there is apparently a recipe for the perfect Christmas party. A team of behavioural psychologists have put together the perfect recipe. Would you like me to give it to you? It's very simple.
Hit us with it.
Very simple. It's PCP equals L by MH squared by PE by 1.5 minus RF. So have a great time. Just take that on board.
Got it.
Great time.
Thanks, mate.
Happy?
Job done.
Yeah, great
Thank you.
talking.
We'll go home now.
Shall I break it down for you?
Yes, please.
It's
So
very simple.
what do all of those letters and symbols mean?
Okay, so L is logistics. So obviously, if you're having a house party, nice and Christmassy at home. But actually, the key bit is the date. Apparently, the perfect date for a Christmas party this year, according to the survey, is the 21st of December, which, if I'm right, is a Saturday.
That's quite late.
21st.
Oh no, GB News has preempted it.
Oh, when did you guys go? When did you have yours?
Ours is this weekend.
Okay.
I like getting out of the way early.
Yeah, that's a work party. That's different to the home party.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our next bit, okay? The ingredients of that party. Friends, good friends. And I think there's more to it than that. I think the behavioural psychologists have said, make sure they're all friends, not just your friends. You don't want two warring parties. You don't want one side standing by the cooker, not talking to the people standing by the fridge, okay? So it's very, very important to make sure they're not all right with each other, okay? That's the important bit.
Yeah.
And the key bit of logistics, 4 canapes per person.
4. Yeah, I always find them too paltry. If I go to people's houses for a Christmas gig or whatever, I purposely don't eat because I expect some nice feast, but then they come around with paltry
Only 4. When I read the article, I misunderstood. I thought they meant 4 types of canapes that you had to have, not 4 per person. But buffets, apparently, very popular.
Yeah, well, the key is then for someone like yourself, you know, who is not happy with the canapes, is to have the cheese board over on the side. So for the rogue guests, you have the cheese board so they can constantly be nibbling. 4 canapes and an average of 5 drinks per person is the perfect amount.
Interesting.
It
Craig,
keeps them giddy, but not too giddy.
I have a question about the music. What music do we put on? Something diplomatic or the host's own choice?
What you don't do is go, hi everyone, and my Spotify's open. Just go and put on your favourite songs. Don't. Take control. Take control. The key bit is taking control, keeping it festive, and basically, as the host of the party, being kind of really chilled out. I guess that's what, I mean, the Co-op have commissioned this survey because they've got all the party food, and what they're saying is buy in all your party food. Don't spend hours, days cooking in advance of the party, because you want to be as relaxed as possible. If you're relaxed, the guests will be relaxed. But you want to know the key bit, and I swear by this, and I have a top tip for you from my personal
We've got 30
playbook.
seconds.
11:01, the party should end. You know what to do? Order the taxis for all your friends in advance so they're out of there by 11:01. When you know they're out of there, you're all going to have a better day and a better night that night.
Great.
Simple.
Good stuff, Craig. Good advice. Get yourself down the Co-op, get some sausage rolls and some dip. Yeah, thank you, Craig. Appreciate that, mate. I had festive sausage rolls and alioli dip last night. It was great.
Alioli, is that how you pronounce it?
What is it?
I have no idea.
Alioli.
Aioli. We're being told it's aioli.
No me gusta el español porque el profesor es antipático. Who knows? Big second hour coming up. We're going to be getting stuck into Storm Dara here in France, and also Trump is in France. Back in just a tick.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into the weekend, Storm Dara is likely to bring some heavy rain and strong winds at times, with multiple Met Office warnings in force, and we're likely to see some disruption as we head into the weekend. To start off on Friday, though, it's almost the calm before the storm. Plenty of blue skies, lots of dry weather, just a few showers feeding in around coast of Scotland. But through into the afternoon, we will see a change as cloud spills in from the west, heavy outbreaks of rain around western coast and through into Northern Ireland. We'll start to see some very gusty winds as we head into the afternoon too. Turning milder under that cloud and rain, but along eastern areas, another chilly day on offer. Now, as we head through into the evening, those heavy outbreaks of rain are going to continue to move their way eastwards, falling as snow mainly across high ground, across parts of Scotland, also around northern parts of England too. A largely dry end to the very far northeast of Scotland, but it won't be long before that rain starts to move in. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, heavy and blustery outbreaks of rain, falling as snow at times once again across higher ground. And similar elsewhere across England and Wales, a very wet end to the day and turning increasingly blustery as we head into the evening too. Multiple wind warnings out around coastal areas and through into inland areas as well. Heavy outbreaks of rain sweeping their way across the country. Still heavy at times overnight and still falling as snow mainly in northern areas too, and turning very blustery, particularly around western coasts. And it is going to be a chilly night on offer, particularly in those very brisk winds. So a very unsettled start to the weekend. Once again, we'll see those outbreaks of rain sweep across the country. Still heavy at times and still falling as snow across northern areas. But we're going to also see very strong winds, a risk of gales, if not severe gales at times, across Northern Ireland, western coasts of England and Wales too, where there is an amber warning in force. And it is going to feel particularly chilly in the brisk winds. Bye for now.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Morning, it's 11 a.m. on Friday, December the 6th, live across the UK. This is Britain's Newsroom with me, Ben Leo, and Emma Trimble.
A red weather warning. A rare alert has been issued as Britain is braced for Storm Dara.
Train travel turmoil, trains delayed all across the country this morning due to a nationwide fault across 4 major lines as passengers, get this, are told to take taxis.
Arise, Sir Sadiq Khan, the London Labour mayor, looks set to receive a knighthood next year for his political and public service. Or is it a reward for divisive politics?
And did you see this last night? Reform UK leader Nigel Farage clashed with Labour Minister Jackie Smith, the presenter Fiona Bruce and Alistair Campbell on the BBC. Take a listen to him clashing with the Tory MP Kevin Hollinrake on immigration.
You haven't got a cat's chance in hell of winning the general election. Shame on you for what you've done. It was willful, it was deceptive, it was deliberate, and it was wrong.
And France in chaos as President Macron rejects calls to step down. France braces itself for the arrival of US President Donald Trump.
And are you feeling plucky? Because today marks My Turkey Day, where Britain celebrates homegrown turkey meat ahead of Christmas.
With just 3 weeks to go until the big day, find out why these turkeys are enjoying their final days of freedom in Lincolnshire.
Have you done your Christmas food shopping yet? Are you ready for the big day?
I haven't, but I'm going to stay with my in-laws, so we'll be doing that en route there, I think, probably at the last minute. But what I haven't done is all of my present Christmas shopping, and I'm slightly worried about how long things are going to take in the post.
No, I know. I'm so bad. Christmas Eve, maybe? I might get around to it.
What about the food? Got that sorted?
I kick-started my own personal food stash very selfishly. I went down the supermarket and got some Christmas puds, some custard, lots of other treats, chocolate, dips and things just for myself, and I've kept them under my bed.
For a minute there, it sounded like you were keeping a
fresh turkey is tucked underneath the bed somewhere.
Oh no, I'll leave that to the wife. It's Will. I'm not sure where Will is. Somewhere up north, but
Turns out he speaks turkey. That was an interesting.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. We're going to be going back to Will Hollis, who's at a turkey farm somewhere up north.
If you want to hear Will Hollis do a gobble, then tune in for that.
Stay tuned for that. He's a right gobbler. Some serious news coming up as well in the next hour, but first let's get your news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. It's just after 11 o'clock. Well, the top story this morning, the UK is bracing for life-threatening winds as the Met Office has issued a rare red warning for Storm Dara. Gusts of over 90 miles an hour are set to batter Wales and southern England from 3 o'clock on Saturday morning, with warnings of flying debris, falling trees and dangerous waves. Power cuts, damaged buildings and travel chaos are also expected as the storm tears through. Amber warnings also cover much of the country, with severe winds lingering well into the weekend. And train chaos is continuing to grip the UK this morning after a nationwide fault sparked major disruption across the network. National Rail has confirmed the issue was caused by a hardware upgrade to their communication system between train drivers and signallers, leading to delays, cancellations and altered services. The fault is still impacting key routes including the Elizabeth Line, Gatwick Express and South Eastern. Passengers have been warned to expect longer waits and are being urged to check live departure boards before setting off. And they're also being advised to allow for extra time for their journeys as the situation continues. Sir Keir Starmer has arrived in Edinburgh in the last half hour or so for a summit of the British-Irish Council. Climate change finance is expected to be top of the agenda for those discussions. And it comes as Sir Keir Starmer defends his plan for change speech amid claims he's watering down election promises. Among the milestones, higher living standards across the UK, safer streets with more police and 1.5 million homes. He claims his 6 new targets will let the public hold Labour's feet to the fire. And some breaking news from the Justice Secretary in the last few minutes. We've heard that the government is planning to overhaul how killers are being sentenced after the shocking Nottingham attacks. Valdo Calocane killed 3 people in June of 2023, but was convicted of manslaughter due to his paranoid schizophrenia, sparking much outrage across the country. The Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has said the Law Commission will be reviewing how diminished responsibility shapes homicide laws. And she's also cracking down on domestic killers with tougher sentences for strangling victims or murders at the end of relationships. Ms Mahmood says the changes aim to tackle violence against women and create safer streets. The Met's counter-terrorism unit has urged people to trust their instincts and to stay vigilant this festive season, with major events like Christmas markets, football matches and carol services drawing large crowds. Officers in London are urging the public to report anything suspicious. Each year, over 10,000 reports are made to counter-terrorism policing, with a fifth providing crucial intelligence to disrupt potential threats. Well, Chief Superintendent Chris Wright says the public's role is vital, with over 40 terrorist plots disrupted since 2017. More than 1,600 people have been arrested across England and Wales in a major week-long crackdown on county lines drug dealing. More than £3 million in drugs, £2 million in cash and more than 550 weapons were seized, alongside 4 XL bully dogs. Police say they also shut down 260 county lines and safeguarded over 1,400 people, including children. In other news, a man has died after being attacked by a fighting dog in East London, with a woman now facing multiple charges. Police were called to Stratford early Wednesday morning, where the 42-year-old was found seriously injured and sadly later died in hospital. Leanne McDonnell is charged with owning a dangerous dog that caused his death and several related offences, including neglecting the animal's welfare. The 32-year-old woman also faces charges over a separate incident last month involving dogs that were dangerously out of control. An alternative healer who promised self-cure through controversial slapping therapy is being sentenced today for manslaughter following the death of a 71-year-old woman. Danielle Cargom died in October 2016 after stopping her insulin medication during a workshop run by Hongqi Zhao. The court heard she'd been convinced by Zhao's claims, calling him a messenger sent by God. The elderly woman was reportedly howling in pain before she died, while Zhao continued to promote his unproven method of self-healing. Zhao, who has no medical qualifications, was convicted in July and will be sentenced at Winchester Crown Court, I should have said there. Well, UK house prices have hit a new record high, with average homes now costing £298,000. Halifax says property values rose 1.3% in November. That's the biggest monthly increase this year and the fifth rise in a row. Annual house price growth also jumped by 4.8%, the strongest rate rise since November 2022. Experts say the market, though, shows no signs of cooling. And scientists at the University of Cambridge have developed a groundbreaking urine test that could detect lung cancer in its earliest stages. The innovative test identifies proteins released by zombie cells, damaged cells that may trigger cancer development. Already successful in mice, researchers are excited to begin human trials, offering a promising, cost-effective alternative to expensive scans. And with earlier detection, patients could receive treatment sooner, giving them a better chance of survival. Those are the latest headlines for now. Plenty more on the travel disruption and, of course, Storm Dara throughout this morning. Now, though, I'll hand you back to Ben and Emma.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thanks, Sam. Hello and welcome to you at home. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK on GB News with me, Ben Leo, and Emma Trimble today. I'm lucky enough to be graced with. Emma, I figured that we weren't going to be working together before Christmas, so I got you a gift.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Ben. Is it an empty box? Is it from the front of the display? It is, isn't it?
It is. The thought was there.
In that case,
the thought was there.
Shall I...
No, only joking. I was expecting you to look inside excitedly and I'd say,
it's
gotcha.
like something that you do to punish your children, isn't it? I was expecting a lump of coal or something.
Sorry about that. And maybe I will get you a real present.
Lump of coal. I'll get you a lump of coal before Christmas.
Are you going to the Christmas party this weekend?
I plan to, yes.
All right, maybe I'll get you a drink or...
I wonder if there's anywhere in central London where you can get coal. I think they've banned people from having fires.
Probably. Or at the altar of net zero. Thank you for your emails at home on gbnews.com/your say. Lots coming in. North East Boy, good morning. You said, can't have a Christmas party any longer that's fun. Boys aren't allowed to look at or speak to girls, and a quick kiss under the mistletoe is likely to result in a life sentence. Best stay home and be filled with bar humbug.
Yeah, wasn't there a story recently about how mistletoe had been banned or something?
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me.
It encourages sexual harassment or something silly like that.
Wouldn't surprise me. And this is amazing, this one. Ian, please confirm that this is true. You've said, everybody listen to this. I went to my sister-in-law's for Christmas dinner about 5 years ago. She charged my missus £25 a head, which I thought was hilarious. In my house, it's help yourself and the more the merrier. I wouldn't dream of charging a guest for anything. I made the remark at the end, have we paid for dessert?
Absolutely wild.
25
was it
quid.
His sister-in-law, is that right?
Yeah,
Ian's
sister-in-law. So his wife's sister charged them 25 quid a head for Christmas dinner. I wouldn't have the gall to do that.
How would you even go about that? Would you tell people in advance, or would you entrap them once they're already there? They've eaten their turkey dinner, and then you say, so I'm just going to have a quick whip around with the old card machine.
That's outrageous. Come on.
£25 a head, that's actually probably quite cheap for a Christmas dinner, I reckon, with all the booze people consume and... desserts and things, £25 a head.
Is it the done thing, though? Surely you want the company you're there to enjoy.
That was some years ago, so with inflation.
Oh, yeah. 35 quid today. You got any more? You got any?
No, I had North East Boy down, so both of us are in agreement that is...
Sorry, I nicked it. I gave you a box with no present and I nicked your comment. One for you, Emma. Last one from Mark says, Emma has a calming aura.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
Not in the break, she doesn't.
No.
She's effing and blinding and shouting and threatening to hit me.
Like a docker. That's why he's given me an empty box as punishment.
Sorry, I feel bad now. I'll get you a real prezi at some point.
Anyway, now French President Emmanuel Macron is battling calls to resign after his government was toppled following a no-confidence vote.
Yes, lots of drama across the channel. French Prime Minister Michel Barnier, remember him? He stood down after he faced backlash over his unpopular fiscal plans.
And this comes as US President-elect Donald Trump is visiting Paris to see the reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral.
Joining us live from Paris is our political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Good morning, Catherine. Lots going on in France today, not least Donald Trump's arrival for the Notre Dame, but the political turmoil puts us to shame, dare I say.
Bienvenue Paris, Ben and Emma. Yes, you're absolutely right. It makes Britain look, frankly, like an oasis of political calm and stability because the French government has collapsed here. Michel Barnier, of course, the Brexit negotiator, lasted just 3 months as France's Prime Minister, so five weeks more than Liz Truss, but still pretty poor. That's the shortest serving French Prime Minister in modern history. And what happened was he tried to get a budget through of £50 billion worth of tax rises and spending cuts, a form of austerity, if you like. That was deeply unpopular. He didn't have the vote, so he tried to force it through. Following that, there was a vote of no confidence in him, which he lost, and clearly he has had to go. So Emmanuel Macron, the president, resident at the Elysee Palace just behind me. It's very sunny here, but the mood will be very, very gloomy. As you've said, Donald Trump and dozens of heads of state, world leaders arriving tomorrow for the reopening of Notre Dame. But France effectively doesn't have a government at the moment. It's got a caretaker. Prime Minister Barnier will stay on until Mr. Macron replaces him. But given that it took Mr. Macron 2 months to find a Prime Minister last time, it's no certainty that he'll have one in place by tomorrow. I think probably that's very, very unlikely. And I think it is worth saying that the situation is really of President Macron's own making, because he chose to call a parliamentary election back in June after the terrible European election results. It was a mystery to everybody why he did it. He didn't have to do it. And what's happened is he's got a parliament now of 3 blocs, left, centrist and right. They all hate each other. They don't want to cooperate. He hasn't got the numbers to get things through. And it's all an almighty, almighty mess.
So it's nil point then for President Macron. It sounds as if he's been a bit too overconfident. Now, what about the arrival of President-elect Donald Trump? How significant is this? I think it's his first visit to Europe, or visit anywhere, since becoming the next president of the United States.
Yes, well, this is something of a coup for President Macron. He might have trouble at home, but this is great for him, isn't it? He previously had a bit of a bromance with Donald Trump when Donald Trump was president last time. That did sour towards the end, but they spoke on the phone a few days ago. Macron invited Trump. Trump said he would love to come, and he will be here. There'll be 50 heads of state. There'll be a large area of central Paris, Notre Dame, the island that it's on, a whole load of bridges absolutely shut down tomorrow. I expect it will be gridlock on the streets. So wherever Donald Trump goes, he is, the news just follows him, doesn't it? So all eyes will be on Paris tomorrow. But what an embarrassment that they won't have a Prime Minister in the job.
OK, Catherine Forster in Paris, thank you very much for that update. I also think it's a bit of a loss for Keir Starmer, who's refusing to meet Donald Trump until he takes office in, I think he's inaugurated on January 20th, perhaps?
Yeah, it's not a good look either. I think the fact that he's going for the opening of Notre Dame, how sort of culturally significant that is for the French people, I think it feels a little bit like FOMO, doesn't it? It's like we're missing out on something really big that's happening, and our Prime Minister isn't quite up to the task.
Well, what's he doing instead? He's in Edinburgh talking about how to finance climate change.
Having a meeting that could have been done by Zoom.
Yeah, just Zoom it.
There we are.
Get yourself on Skype.
Maybe they won't be able to get there because of the trains.
Oh, God. Did you see... Oh, sorry, that reminds me. Did you see... I don't know if we can get the clip. I'm sure it's been played many times in recent days. The clip of the Prime Minister putting on the Christmas lights outside Downing Street. Have you seen that?
Oh, gosh, so embarrassing. It was like a sketch that had been written by Ricky Gervais. It was excruciatingly awkward.
If you haven't seen it, we'll try and get it so we can show you, but it just it made me laugh out loud very much. OK, let's move on. At GB News, we love to hear what you think, of course, and every day we'll be running our poll of the day. And as it's been rumoured, the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, may be included on the New Year's honours list. Today, we're asking, should Sadiq Khan receive a knighthood? We'll be bringing you all the live results throughout the day, so make sure to stay tuned. And the final results will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show.
Now, for all of our latest polls, news and how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/polls. Up next, political parties are going to have to justify who they select to be nominated for the House of Lords. About time too. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
After the Hollywood ending that Wrexham Football Club have got, can Chorley FC benefit from a bit of the old celebrity magic dust?
I can't see why not. The guys have been down a few times now, and when they do come down, obviously they're bringing that with them. A little town like Chorley doesn't see much of the charts and big stars, so it's really nice to see them, and we always welcome them when they do come down.
And Mark, give us a flavour of the level of football. I understand you're in the National League North, right? That's 6 rungs down from the top flight. I mean, you're only just down the road from Manchester City, right? But, I mean, give us a flavour of the two different worlds between your club and Man City.
Our players are all part-timers. So we've got kind of fitness coaches, we've got teachers, we've got all kinds of players who have full-time jobs alongside playing. Our average crowd is probably a tenth of what you get at Man City, probably even less than that. We get about 1,500 on a home game. The thing is, we know where we are and we understand where we are, and we are a real community club. Tonight, I'm ready now. I'm off to Marine, so off over to Merseyside. Playing the likes of Liverpool and Everton over on Merseyside would be kind of a dream come true. But we know where we are. We would just love to get to the Football League. So teams like Salford, Stockport County were in our division a couple of years ago, all flying now in the Football League. We just want to do the same. We sat down with the board last year and they told us a vision for the future, and that vision most definitely is that we want to be a Football League club. When we went to the Premier League, I know the boys have been saying that they 30 years will be in the Premier League and winning it. Well, let's hope we are, and let's hope I'm still around to see that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
You please join me when I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yay! It worked. Nervous moment there.
Oh, my goodness me. Oh, my goodness me.
It's just excruciating. As I was just saying to Ben in the break, I've been sending that to all of my American friends just so they know what the atmosphere feels like here in Britain at the moment, because it's just perfectly encapsulated in that video. The awkwardness, the lack of confidence. Will the lights or will they not work? I mean, really,
I was saying, we're joined, of course, by our panel again, Samuel Sweek and Claire Muldoon. Guys, I was saying, and Claire, I said this on Breakfast on Monday, this was an opportunity for the Prime Minister to give some inspiration to the nation and say, I don't know, guys, this is This represents a new dawn for Britain. I know it's been a tough couple of years, but I'm going to try my best to make sure that, you know, we get back on the right track. Let's turn on these lights. You and your family at home, you have a great Christmas. You fill your boots with lovely food. Let's come together in love and let's crack it in the new year. Instead, it was... Oh, thank God for that, they turned on. What a damning indictment of the state of play.
Maybe he was so relieved, given the fact that nothing in Britain seems to work now, that when he actually turned them on, they did. Maybe that's the look of shock on Keir Starmer's face. But he certainly didn't. I'll tell you what he didn't do. As a darling, he didn't light up my life.
Ooh, there we go.
Sassy, Claire, sassy.
Samuel, quick thoughts on that? Do you care? Do you want our PM to be charismatic and inspirational?
It wouldn't be a bad thing if he was.
No.
I mean, like, but maybe, you know, he's refusing to sort of like. Well, he's you know, he's letting the energy companies get away. Maybe he was unsure if he had any money on the meter.
Maybe it's because it was being powered by wind energy, and so he wasn't sure if it was going to be reliable or not.
Well, what we didn't see is Rachel from accounts in number 11 actually on a bike trying to motor the electricity for pedal power.
Single-handedly keeping up the national grid.
Yeah.
Right, Samuel, sorry, Emma, after you.
No, so I was just going to say exactly the same thing. So, Samuel, this story in the I paper about how political parties will now have to justify peerages, what do you think of that?
Well, I just don't think peerages actually can be justified. I think they exemplify a outdated system that puts the voices and the opinions and the political leanings of, like, the upper classes over the needs and the wants of the working class.
So what do you think then about the Labour Party giving each other knighthoods and peerages and actually then not just awarding them but accepting them? You say they shouldn't do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's actually also not forget that Keir Starmer in his election...
Sir, comrade...
So, my dear comrade, Sir Keir, he was elected as leader of the Labour Party with one of his 10 pledges, if you remember them, because we've had many resets and many different numbers thrown at us, was actually to abolish the House of Lords. But, if you look at Starmer's record, he pledged to abolish the House of Lords. He hasn't. He's filled it with political allies. He said he would tax wealthy corporations. He hasn't. He's cozying up to BlackRock and putting punitive cuts on the sick and disabled in this country. He's watered down his climate pledges, which was also another one of his policies he's elected on. He said he would fight for peace and human rights around the world. He's arming Israel's genocide in Gaza. He said he would unite the Labour Party. He purged the left in its entirety.
This is like Samuel's sweet bingo.
People sat at home like, yeah, there's another one.
BlackRock, climate change.
Samuel, if...
But my point, sorry, Ben, just before you come in there, is that Keir Starmer cannot be taken on his word. If you look at what he was elected on as Labour leader, as Prime Minister, has any of that happened? No, he's rolled back on it almost immediately, and the House of Lords is just another unsurprising example of that.
I was just going to say, if Israel wanted to genocide Gaza, they would have done it by now.
Well, they're doing a fine job.
Claire, do you think that they should have to justify... I think they have to write a little paragraph justifying why the person is being nominated for a peerage.
Well, of course they do, and I think historically the House of Lords do actually play quite an important political point on our systems in terms of checks and balances. You know that when new laws are introduced, the white papers and then all the other coloured papers coming through the Houses of Commons are debated at length, apart from the assisted dying one. I would take note of that. 5 hours was not enough for that to have its first reading and then approved. But so then the House of Lords then have quite an important job. And a lot of them are cross-party. A lot of them are from lots of social different demographics. And but yes, I do think there has to be an overhaul of the House of Lords, and I would go as far as to say I think that we need an overhaul in our political voting system, because I do not think that first past the post is actually an effective way of governance in our times today, because it does not reflect the way that the electorate has actually voted.
Yeah. Do you think we'll ever get to a time where we have PR?
Personally, I don't think we will ever have proportional representation or PR in this country. I think it's too far gone for that. But I do think we do need a reset. And interestingly, on Farage and the fact that Reform have overtaken Labour in the polls, they're not bothering about the Conservative Party stronghold here, about people moving from Conservatives or the Conservative voter moving to Reform. They want the Labour voters. They want the people who have voted for Labour to quite rightly get out the Conservatives that were in power for 14 years and did absolutely nothing, in my view. But Farage and Reform are going after that. And I've said after the general election and before the general election that the country will turn blue, but not Conservative blue. They will turn Reform blue.
And
it's happening.
That takes us quite neatly onto this other story, doesn't it, Claire? That Keir Starmer just simply, in all of the pledges that he made, simply ignored the issue of immigration, didn't make a commitment to lowering it to a specific number, and that, of course, is another issue that Farage will have over the Labour Party if he wants to take their vote.
Well, that's it. But Farage, when he was asked last night what he would do, he didn't have an answer, OK? So you can sit and you can give it back, you can give it out, but unless you've actually got a policy... I mean, the Reform have said it's net zero in terms of net migration they would want, but they don't actually have anything written down or in place or spoken about that they would do to enable that. But Keir Starmer actually didn't mention defence either. We all expected an increase of our GDP spending on defence. That wasn't given. He didn't put that optic in either. He was banging on about net zero as well. I'm so not for this. It's making everyone poorer. And to think that geographically my mother in Scotland is freezing cold and yet it's milder down here, and that's an SNP thing. So don't even start me on the SNP, because that's a devolved power for them to reintroduce a fuel allowance for the elderly, which they're not doing. And I just think that Keir Starmer, when he stood up yesterday, he gave nothing, he gave no hope, just like he did when he turned on the Christmas tree lights. He's robotic.
Samuel, what's a good, sensible, in your book, figure for migration caps? How many per year?
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But what I do know is that... Well, I don't know.
Give a figure.
There are people a lot better placed to...
Is 300k a year? Does that sound sensible?
I just think we should treat everyone with fairness and dignity. Everyone should get that. There should not be a figure on treating people with kindness. Right. And like for enabling people to improve their lives, be it if they're from this country or not. And there's just no hope with this government.
Do you recognise that it is important to have control over our borders and to limit immigration? Is that something that you would stand by?
No, I think it's important that we look after every single person in this country, whether or not they were born here or not. And I think that I will not be moved away from saying that every single person should be treated with fairness and dignity. And that's not what our migration system in this country does. Because
should Brits be prioritised?
I don't know. I think everybody should be treated fairly and equally.
Should Brits be prioritised? You've got a native Brit, you've got an old lady who's drafted all her life, she's living in a small flat, she gets pension credit and whatever else. Should she be prioritised over somebody who's come over in the last couple of months on a small boat?
I don't look at it like that. What I look at is that we have a class divide in this country. I don't divide people from where they're coming from. I'm dividing...
So you wouldn't prioritise Brits?
I'm saying that everybody should be treated with fairness and kindness, and I think that our political system cozies up to the rich and the elite and punches downwards constantly.
But Sam, in order to be treated fairly and squarely and with respect, with dignity, everyone should have respect. And a lot of people who don't have respect, either for authority or either for the society in which they've come into, and that's the thing that gets me.
Do you think, Samuel, that
there's no integration?
Would you agree then with Keir Starmer in not setting himself up with any milestones when it comes to immigration? If you think he should just sort of, make the decision as and when, that he doesn't need to make that commitment to the British public, or do you think maybe he's making a rod for his own back by not committing?
No, I think he would be making a rod for his own back by committing. Whether you agree
maybe that's the reason why he hasn't.
And perhaps there's probably some some political mind behind that as an idea, because we've had 14 years of Tories and we've had the Labour government obviously coming in now, who have been pinned down by arbitrary figures that they actually realistically cannot control with the political system as it is now.
Well, Starmer has always said that he's going to fix the foundations, and it's funny he's not chosen to fix the foundations, make the change and build the country with immigration. It's funny.
OK, Claire Muldoon, Samuel... just forgotten your surname, quick.
Sweet.
Sorry, I was about to call you Samuel Pepys after the London Diaries. Sorry, Samuel. Thank you both.
He had a very fateful end, so sweet,
well,
definitely not.
Wouldn't wish that on our Samuel. Thank you both. Time now for your news headlines with another Samuel Francis.
Very good morning to you. The top stories just after 11:30. Well, the UK is bracing for life-threatening winds as the Met Office has issued a rare red warning for Storm Dara. Gusts of over 90 miles an hour are set to batter Wales and southern England from 3 o'clock on Saturday morning. With warnings of flying debris, falling trees and dangerous waves, power cuts, damaged buildings and travel chaos are also all expected as the storm tears through the country. Amber warnings also cover much of the UK, with severe winds lingering well into the weekend. And train chaos is continuing to grip the country this morning, with National Rail now issuing another warning due to that severe weather anticipated this weekend. That warning comes just hours after a nationwide fault caused by a hardware upgrade overnight sparked major disruption across the network. The problem affected a number of lines throughout London, southern England, Wales and elsewhere. Passengers are still being warned to expect long waits and are being urged to check live departure details before setting off. The government is overhauling how killers are sentenced in the wake of the Nottingham attacks. Valdo Calocane killed 3 people in June 2023, but was convicted of manslaughter rather than murder due to his paranoid schizophrenia, sparking calls for change. The Justice Secretary says the Law Commission will review how diminished responsibility shapes homicide laws. She's also cracking down on domestic killers, with tougher sentences for killers who strangle their victims or kill at the end of relationships. Shabana Mahmood says the changes aim to tackle violence against women and create safer streets. Sir Keir Starmer has arrived in Edinburgh for the summit of the British-Irish Council. Climate change finance is expected to be top of the agenda during discussions, and it comes as Sir Keir Starmer's defending his plan for change speech yesterday, amid claims he watered down election promises. Among the milestones announced, higher living standards across the UK, safer streets with more police and 1.5 million new homes. He claims his 6 new targets will let the public hold Labour's feet to the fire. And the Princess of Wales is hosting her annual carol service at Westminster Abbey this evening as part of her gradual return to royal duties after her cancer treatment. This year's Together at Christmas event celebrates love and empathy, with 1,600 guests invited who've supported others. In a letter to those attending ahead of tonight's service, Kate said, "Love is the light that can shine bright even in our darkest times." Performances from Gregory Porter and Paloma Faith will feature alongside special readings from stars like Richard E. Grant and Adam Peaty. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you in around half an hour. Now, though, back over to Ben and Emma.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. Now up at noon, Good Afternoon Britain with Adam Cherry and Emily Carver is about to hit your screen. So what's coming up on your show?
It is. It's the duo you didn't know you wanted or needed.
Glad to be
Adam
here.
Cherry.
Very excited.
And me. Yeah, I'm very excited to present with you. It's going to be fun. Get some of that political inside scoop on things. We are going to be discussing the weather. Because of this weather warning that's quite alarming, I should say. Although I did hear you discussing a little bit earlier whether it's a bit of fear-mongering, all of these warnings.
Well, I don't know. I mean, surely we've had storms before. I mean, I know the red warning is to alert people to potential loss of life, but, I mean...
I do wonder, though, don't you, that if you have these weather warnings, that people just won't use their common sense. They'll rely on the weather warning rather than thinking, oh, that looks a bit dodgy outside.
Rather than looking out the window.
Also, if they come too often and eventually something really bad does come along, you think it's sort of like Boy Who Cried Wolf, you know, they just ignore it, so...
Yes, and after yesterday's Not a Reset speech, Keir Starmer up in Scotland, this time talking about climate change. Well, GB News can reveal that apparently we're importing more oil than ever from elsewhere.
Do we know how...
Despite all this net zero madness.
And do we know how he got to Scotland? That's what I want to know. Did he go on a train? Did he go by car?
Good question.
Plane, perhaps?
Don't know, but we should investigate that.
And also...
Tucker will find out for us.
Yes.
We're speaking to Christopher Hope, who's at the lobby. He'll be talking to the spokesperson, so we'll find out.
And you, Adam, have got an interesting little chart there
thank you for bringing that up. Now,
it's like show and tell.
Right. So, Prime Minister...
You printed it in black and white, Adam.
No, listen. Technical difficulties. However, Prime Minister facing some criticism for his plan for change. You know, what's the difference between a mission, a first step, a milestone, a foundation? Good news. The Guido Fawkes blog has produced a very easy-to-understand chart which explains all of it and how it all interconnects. I don't know why people are criticising. Look at that. Look at that, perfect.
Who's the little stick man?
So the stick man that's you.
It's been embellished by Adam.
So you're there and you're thinking, what does the Prime Minister think about tax? You simply start at the foundation, then you go to the mission, then your first step, then your milestone, and then your pillar at the end there. It all makes perfect sense.
And everybody is poorer once they've gone through that gauntlet, is that
Well, they're
right?
certainly more confused, I think, but, we'll do our best to explain
Yeah,
it.
sort of
So what else have you got coming up on the
Also,
show?
have you seen that the National Federation of Builders is saying that apparently we need hundreds of thousands of more migrants to come here to build all the homes that Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner are promising?
Apparently, teaching someone to be a brickie takes a really long time, apparently, training.
Isn't it quite extraordinary? You allow millions of people into the country, and then you have to have hundreds of thousands more to build the homes for those millions of people. I mean, it's a conveyor belt, isn't it, really?
Absurd.
A Ponzi scheme of sorts.
Exactly.
Curious when it comes to their experience, because people dump their passports. Do they dump their CVs as well? I don't know. Anyway.
Okay, sounds like a cracking show. Emily, will you do me a favour?
Depends what it is.
I'm going to be late for my mum's birthday lunch. You wouldn't mind just sitting in the seat for the last 20 minutes or so, would you?
Well, what's it worth?
Would you like an empty present Ben gave me earlier?
I'll get you a box of
air.
Absolute
bickies.
cheek.
I'll just leave you there if that's okay. I've got to go because it's my mum's birthday. Happy birthday, Mum.
Happy birthday, Rose. Ben's mum.
This is actually happening then, is it?
Yeah, I think it's happening. Yeah, there we go.
Well, it's me and Emma.
Right, there we go. Thank you, Adam. Have a good show.
Oh,
bye,
Everybody.
Ben. Hope he doesn't have to take the train.
Right.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Storm Dara is expected to bring very strong winds and some heavy rain, some hill snow across Scotland at times, and we do have a red weather warning issued through the early hours of Saturday for strong winds in the west. Firstly, there, a ridge of high pressure brings fairly settled conditions before Storm Dara moves in from the west, bringing heavy outbreaks of rain this afternoon across Northern Ireland and then later across western parts of Scotland and England and Wales. And we'll really start to see the winds pick up under this cloud and rain too. To the far east, though, it's largely going to be dry and settled with plenty of hazy sunshine by the time we reach this afternoon. Now, through into the evening, then, we'll continue to see these outbreaks of rain slowly spread their way in from the west. This is going to be heavy at times and turning very blustery under this cloud and rain too. Across Scotland, the rain will move its way eastwards, heaviest in the west at first and falling as snow across high ground. And similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, heavy outbreaks of rain and starting to turn very windy, particularly around coastal areas. To the far southeast, it's likely to stay dry until the evening, until later on into the night. And then from the west still across England and Wales, we'll see those heavy outbreaks of rain continue. And they will continue to move their way eastwards through the course of the night as well. We'll really start to see those winds pick up through into the evening, particularly once again around western areas where we do have amber and red warnings issued. So do stay up to date on the Met Office website for those. Otherwise, heavy outbreaks of rain continuing, still falling as snow across northern Scotland. Now, Saturday is set to once again be another unsettled day. Plenty of heavy outbreaks of rain crossing the country at times and very windy, even in inland areas, but particularly around coasts, western coasts of England and Wales and Northern Ireland too, seeing gales, if not severe gales at times. So a very unsettled day and feeling particularly cold in those brisk northerly winds. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good morning. You're back at Britain's Newsroom and it is 41 minutes past 11, very specific. This is Britain's Newsroom with now Emily Carver instead of Ben Leo and me, Emma Trimble.
Yeah, Ben Leo had to leave, which is fair enough. You've got to put the family first, You can't miss your mother's birthday lunch, can you, really?
Happy birthday, Rose.
I mean, it's a good thing that he came and did the show at all, I think. Anyway.
I hope he gets her a better present than he got me.
What, an empty box?
An empty box.
A box of air. Any fragrance at all, no?
I don't know.
No. Well, during Advent, as we count down to Christmas Day, we're hearing from church ministers across the country. Now, each day they have a very special message for you to celebrate the festive season.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 6.
Hi, I'm Tom Finnemore. At Christmas, I find I'm surrounded by excess. The pressure to buy the perfect gift, the ever-increasing temptation to overindulge in food and drink, and the constant pressure to have more. But the Bible offers a different perspective. In Isaiah it says, "Woe to those who rise early in the morning to run after their drinks, who stay up late at night till they're in flames with wine." This wisdom speaks to the dangers of excess, of filling our lives with things that promise satisfaction, but if we're honest, ultimately leave us feeling empty. It reminds us that the true gift of the season isn't found in what we consume or buy, or how much we can fit into our lives, but in something much deeper. The birth of Jesus Christ, who brings the gift of peace and the promise of hope. So this Christmas, let's slow down, be present with those we love, remembering that lasting fulfillment comes not from excess, but from gratitude and contentment found in the person of Jesus Christ. Have a Merry Christmas.
These Advent messages make me feel quite emotional.
Do they make you want to go to church?
They do make me want... Yes, I don't go to church.
I promise I won't go on a theological diatribe. I really love them. I think it's wonderful. I'm actually treating it like it is my Advent calendar. Every day I look forward to the next one.
Well, I don't have an Advent calendar this year, so this is my Advent calendar.
Yeah, of course you do. You have GB News Advent calendar.
It's lovely.
I think it's really sweet, and I love hearing... just because it's vicars from around the country and they're talking about the real meaning of Christmas. There was one a few days ago where they were talking. He was talking about the real meaning of gift giving. That you know, Christ is the gift that God gave to the world, and that's the reason why we give gifts. And I think it's important for people to sort of remember the proper orientation of Christmas. You know, you don't have to get people masses of presents. You just
it's
have
lovely
to
that one because
show them.
I thought he was going to say it's not about the gifts at all. But actually, he spun it and said
it's the meaning of the gifts. That's why we do it.
Yes, I need to actually do my Christmas shopping.
Have you not done it yet?
Absolutely not. I haven't. I'm
I've
usually
left
one of
a lot
those
too
who's
late as well.
Still doing it on Christmas Eve. Down at Oxford Street, God, absolute nightmare.
I used to love doing my Christmas shopping on Christmas Eve. It used to be my thing. I'd run down with my dad and we'd just do, it was like supermarket sweep, get everyone's presents, but now I find that too stressful to do it two months in advance.
I think it was a year or two ago, Patrick Christie's went down to Oxford Street to catch the men on Christmas Eve who were doing their last-minute shopping. It's always so funny. My dad's exactly the same. Anyway,
they bump into each other on the high street.
Can you tell we're catching up here? Anyway, let's see what you've been saying on gbnews.com/your say. Well, lots of you have been commenting on Ben doing a runner. Some of you have said that he shouldn't have done so. Most of you are being very nice and saying happy birthday to Ben's mum. And David says, wow, I thought I'd seen it all. Welcome, Emily. What an exit by Ben. Hope Mam has a great birthday. Well, that's very nice indeed. That's very nice. We've got a few more on politics. Christine, you've got some problems. You say, I've got to wait 2 years to see my NHS dentist. It's all right, I'll have no teeth left by then. Oh, God, that's nice, isn't it?
That's brutal, though I have to say I know a lot of people who can't get a dentist appointment, so I can absolutely believe that. We've got another one here from Bill who says... builders, chippies and electricians are qualified tradespeople in this country, and it takes years... Not the bloody boat people's
can't read
hope.
that out, Emma.
No, I can't. Unfortunately,
can't
read that out.
Read ahead, Emma. Read ahead.
But he does have a point in that these are trades that do take a long time to train for and to do well. And if you do have people who are, you know, coming here as migrants to do those jobs, do we know whether they're qualified to the same standards if they're building our homes? Because what we don't want to do is invest in a load of home building and for those to be, you know, subpar.
Well, Rachel Reeves has talked about how we need to have more brickies, more carpenters, more, you know, various tradesmen. It just needs to happen now, doesn't it, really? It does need to happen.
Well, we need to value those people, send people into vocational jobs and you know, treat it as if it's got equal dignity to other jobs.
Makes sense. Well, still to come, Will Hollis is going to be joining us from a turkey farm in the run-up to Christmas. What's going on there, Will?
Good morning. Yes, well, turkeys, they are the centrepiece for many people at Christmas. It's not just about the presents, it's not just about the family, it's not even just about your religion, but if you've got a big fat turkey in the middle of your dinner table, then I imagine a lot of people will be pretty happy. You're probably thinking it's 3 weeks till Christmas. Why are there turkeys still alive in Britain? Well, if you want to find out the answer, come back to Inkpot's farm in Sleaford in just a few moments' time.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Fabio, thank you for coming in. It's great to see you. Nice to meet you. So you were born near Rome?
Yeah, in a very small town. It's called Serrone, about an hour south of Rome. Yeah, on the hillside.
Was it a place of excellent cuisine?
It is indeed a place of excellent cuisine and red wines. In fact, it's the only DOCG red wine of the region. Yeah.
Most of your career, I mean, this may seem self-evident, you've cooked Italian. I'm thinking that's quite a challenge to cook Italian in Malaysia, to cook Italian in Bermuda or Turkey. Was that a challenge?
It was, yeah, but I like challenges, so that's one of the reasons why I started to travel, because of my job. For example, in Malaysia, I've been sent there to twist a grill restaurant into an Italian restaurant inside a five-star hotel. And I was doing the chef training for the local chefs. And then I build the menus, I train the chefs, and then I eventually go back.
In Italian food, is there lots of innovation?
I would say in the past 10 years, yes. It used to be a very traditional cuisine, but in the past 10, 15 years, Italian chefs, they are a bit more open-minded, I would say. Give us some examples of your innovation. Well, hide and seek is very well around the innovation. In that bar is a bar and kitchen where we have a sherry plate concept, where we try to take our guests in a culinary journey, starting from a classic dish and then reinventing into a modern twist. Usually I like to twist the style of cuisine between different countries, different continents.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Are you feeling plucky? I asked because it's my turkey day today. Have you heard of it? Clearly I haven't.
Well, it's a day for Brits to celebrate homegrown turkey meat ahead of the festive period.
Well, there you go. GB News reporter Will Hollis, he's at a farm in Lincolnshire. Will, you were going to tell us why there are so many turkeys still alive.
Yes, well, this close to Christmas, you'd probably think that most of them had been on the way to the abattoir, maybe in the freezers or hitting up the chilled section of the supermarket. But on farms, turkeys stay fresh for a very long time, and that's why you can see so many of them here relaxing on this bracing day in Sleaford. Let's find out why they're still here. We've got Hannah, who's one of the farmers who has Inkpot's farm here in Sleaford, Lincolnshire. Why are they still here this close to Christmas?
So the turkeys are just enjoying their last few days of freedom, and then they'll be going to the abattoir early next week, and then they'll be available for sale here fresh, straight from the farm.
And you've got an open day, so people will come and check out the turkeys and maybe even figure out which turkey they'd like on their table this Christmas. It's the National Farmers Union Buy My Turkey Day. Why is it so important to buy directly from the source, which is what they're urging people to do this Christmas?
Absolutely. So if you, for example, come to our open day tomorrow, you can find out more at Inkpot Farm. It's so important to buy direct from the farmers, because then everything that you spend with a farmer goes into the farmer's pockets and straight onto the benefit of that business, rather than going off to someone else's profit in the middle.
Hannah, it's not just you out here in the field with the turkeys. We've also got your daughter, 17-year-old Elizabeth, and Hecate, the guardian dog, who protects the turkeys every day of the year from foxes and other sorts of creatures that turkeys aren't friends with. What's it like being a turkey farmer this close to Christmas?
Well, it's quite it's going to be sort of stressful to make sure that everyone has the right turkey, the right size for the right date, because if not, it ruins it. But it's a really nice feeling knowing that you're helping up to 100 people have a really nice Christmas.
100 turkeys, so that's 100 families getting a big, fat, homegrown turkey. This is a family farm, and we've been talking so much about family farming and around inheritance tax, and maybe one day in the future this will be your farm. Why does it mean so much to you being a family farmer when you're only 17, out here in the cold with your mum?
Well, I think sort of being raised interacting so much with the animals and with the farm and being equal decision makers, we've always have been since we were 3, me and my twin. It's really we always make decisions for 8 generations in the future, and it's really nice to know that I'm one of those generations and that I can help bring people food and just create nice lives for the animals.
Fantastic. We've got Elizabeth, we've got Hannah, and we've also got a whole load of turkeys! I said we've got a whole load of turkey! Thank you very much. We've been practicing that all morning.
Oh, well, you are a great conductor of the turkeys. Thank you so much for that report. Good stuff.
What a good boy. I mean, the dog, not well.
Was a good boy too. A good man, I'm sure. Right, we're going to throw to Adam now, because it is, in fact, Good Afternoon Britain next.
Time for your show.
It is time for our show. Adam, what have we got on the agenda?
Emily, I think you should know a thing or two about what's on the agenda, but we'll chat about it anyway. We've got Storm Dara, how Britain is coming to a standstill, 90-mile-an-hour winds. I'm also going to attempt to explain what the Prime Minister's plan for change really means. I've got a chart, I've got diagrams. It's all going to make sense, trust me. You want to stay tuned for that one. We're also going to go live to Paris, and we're interviewing the student who was deplatformed by her own university for daring to interview a student who detransitioned.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Storm Dara is expected to bring very strong winds and some heavy rain, some hill snow across Scotland at times, and we do have a red weather warning issued through the early hours of Saturday for strong winds in the west. Firstly, though, a ridge of high pressure brings fairly settled conditions before Storm Dara moves in from the west, bringing heavy outbreaks of rain this afternoon across Northern Ireland and then later across western parts of Scotland and England and Wales. And we'll really start to see the winds pick up under this cloud and rain too. To the far east, though, it's largely going to be dry and settled with plenty of hazy sunshine by the time we reach this afternoon. Now, through into the evening, then, we'll continue to see these outbreaks of rain slowly spread their way in from the west. This is going to be heavy at times and turning very blustery under this cloud and rain too. Across Scotland, the rain will move its way eastwards, heaviest in the west at first and falling as snow across high ground. And similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, heavy outbreaks of rain and starting to turn very windy, particularly around coastal areas. To the far southeast, it's likely to stay dry until the evening, until later on into the night, And then from the west still across England and Wales, we'll see those heavy outbreaks of rain continue. And they will continue to move their way eastwards through the course of the night as well. We'll really start to see those winds pick up through into the evening, particularly once again around western areas where we do have amber and red warnings issued. So do stay up to date on the Met Office website for those. Otherwise, heavy outbreaks of rain continuing, still falling as snow across northern Scotland. Now, Saturday is set to once again be another unsettled day. Plenty of heavy outbreaks of rain crossing the country at times and very windy, even in inland areas, but particularly around coasts, western coasts of England and Wales and Northern Ireland too, seeing gales, if not severe gales at times. So a very unsettled day and feeling particularly cold in those brisk northerly winds. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Friday, the 6th of December. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Adam Cherry.
Well, chaos on Britain's railways as a nationwide fault continues to cause mass disruption. Meanwhile, the Met Office warns Brits to stay indoors as Storm Dara is set to batter Britain with 90-mile-per-hour winds. Should we all just batten down the hatches?
And the National Federation of Builders claims Britain needs hundreds of thousands more migrants to build enough houses to hit Labour's target. But why don't they need somewhere to live as well?
Good question. And confusion today over what exactly Keir Starmer's Not a Reset speech means for the country. This comes as new shock polling puts Labour in third place nationally after Reform and the Conservatives.
And we'll speak to a student who claims she was suspended from her university radio station after daring to question transgender ideology. She's not going quietly. We'll speak to her later.
Yeah, yet another storm we're going to be battered with, apparently. This time, Storm Dara.
Yeah, I know. A lot of this is going to hit in Wales in the southwest, and I was in Wales last week covering it for the channel. The problem is, obviously, other than the immediate damage and the shock just before Christmas, you don't think about the insurance, right? Because they don't want to insure you, or they'll try and wriggle out of it because it happens so frequently. So I really feel for those guys who are, going
What, so the home insurance, the car insurance, the everything insurance, just sky high?
Well, they're always going to look for an excuse not to pay it, aren't they, really?
They are. Not going to pay out. Anyway, let us know if you're going to be impacted by this storm. We are going to be speaking to people who know exactly what's going to be going on with the old weather. But yes, doesn't bode well for the Christmas shopping, does it?
Well, I haven't done mine yet, so let's hope it's gone. Oh, shouldn't be saying that. I think my mum's watching. Don't worry, it's all fine. It's all under control.
You'll get her something lovely, I'm sure, on Christmas Eve at about 8 o'clock at night.
Not true, no.
That's the usual time for men to go shopping, I find. Just do an Amazon. Do it Amazon.
Well, exactly.
A John Lewis delivery, why not? But yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about yesterday's speech from Keir Starmer, but we're sort of moving it on, having a look at exactly what it all means. You've got this graph that you've been showing us all morning.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning this, Emily. This is a very...
Oh, it's in colour now.
It's in colour now, right? Now, you might not be able to see precisely, but look, we've got your foundations, your missions, your first steps, your milestones, and then it was cut off at the top, so your pillars. I'm going to be explaining how this all links together. I don't know why people are saying this is complicated. Look at this. Look at that. Obvious.
It looks like a road to nowhere to me, but there we go. And also the National Builders Federation saying, you know what, to reach the target for new homes, because the population's increased so much, you know what we need? We need hundreds of thousands more migrants to come build those homes. But don't those new migrants need somewhere to live just as much as the old migrants and everyone else in this country? Does it make sense to you at all? Right, we've thrown quite a lot at you, so let's get the headlines.
Very good afternoon to you. It's just after 12 o'clock. The top story this lunchtime. Well, the UK is now bracing for life-threatening winds as the Met Office has issued a rare red warning for Storm Dara on the way. Gusts of over 90 miles an hour are set to batter Wales and southern England from 3 o'clock on Saturday morning, with warnings of flying debris, falling trees and dangerous waves. Power cuts, damaged buildings and travel chaos are all expected as the storm tears through. Amber warnings also cover much of the country, with severe winds lingering well into Sunday evening. Train chaos is continuing to grip the UK, with passengers hit by yet another warning after this morning's system fault caused widespread disruption. National Rail has apologised, admitting a hardware upgrade to its radio system brought services to a standstill across London, southern England, Wales and beyond. Well, while that fault has been fixed, travellers are now facing fresh challenges as Storm Dara threatens severe weather and more delays. Flooding is already affecting routes in Stockport and Chester, with passengers there being urged to check live updates and expect longer waits. Sir Keir Starmer has arrived in Edinburgh this morning for a summit of the British-Irish Council. Climate change finance is expected to be top of the agenda. It comes as Sir Keir Starmer's defending his Plan for Change speech yesterday, amid claims he just watered down some election promises. Among the milestones, higher living standards across the UK, safer streets with more police and 1.5 million new homes. He claims his 6 new targets will let the public hold Labour's feet to the fire. The Metropolitan Police's counter-terrorism unit is urging people to trust their instincts and to stay vigilant this festive season. With major events like Christmas markets, football matches and carol services drawing large crowds, officers in London are urging the public to report anything suspicious. Each year, over 10,000 reports are made to counter-terrorism policing, with a fifth providing crucial intelligence to disrupt potential threats. Chief Superintendent of the Met Police says the public's role is vital, with over 40 terrorist plots disrupted since 2017. More than 1,600 people have been arrested across England and Wales in a major week-long crackdown on County Line's drug dealing. More than £3 million in drugs, £2 million in cash and over 500 weapons were seized, alongside 4 XL bully dogs. Police also shut down 260 county lines and safeguarded over 1,400 people. Nearly half of them were children. A man has died after being attacked by a fighting dog in East London, with a woman now facing multiple charges. Police were called to Stratford early on Wednesday morning, where the 42-year-old was found seriously injured and later died in hospital. Leanne McDonnell is charged with owning a dangerous dog that caused that death and several related offences, including neglecting an animal's welfare. The 32-year-old also faces charges over a separate incident last month involving dogs that were dangerously out of control. Well, let's take you live to the courts in Winchester, where an alternative healer who promised self-cure through controversial slapping therapy is currently being sentenced for manslaughter following the death of a 71-year-old woman. Danielle Cargom died in October 2016 after stopping her insulin medication during a workshop run by Hongqi Zhao. The court heard she'd been convinced by Zhao's claims, calling him a messenger sent by God. The elderly woman was reportedly howling in pain before she died, while Zhao continued to promote his unproven method of self-healing. Well, Zhao, who has no medical qualifications, was convicted in July and is currently being sentenced at Winchester Crown Court. UK house prices have hit a new record high today, with the average home now costing £298,000. Halifax says property values rose 1.3% in November. That's the biggest monthly increase this year and the 5th rise in a row. Annual house price growth also jumped to 4.8%. That's the strongest rate rise since November 2022. Scientists at the University of Cambridge have developed a groundbreaking urine test that could detect lung cancer in its earliest stages. The innovative test identifies proteins released by zombie cells, that's damaged cells that may trigger cancer development. Already successful in mice, researchers say they're now excited to begin human trials, offering a promising and cost-effective alternative to expensive scans. Well, with earlier detection, patients could receive treatment sooner, giving them a better chance of survival. And the Princess of Wales is hosting her annual carol service at Westminster Abbey this evening as part of her gradual return to royal duties after her cancer treatment. This year's Together at Christmas event celebrates love and empathy, with 1,600 guests invited who've supported others. In a letter to attendees ahead of tonight's service, Kate said that love is the light that can shine bright even in our darkest times. Well, performances from Gregory Porter and Paloma Faith will be featuring alongside readings from stars like Richard E. Grant and Adam Peaty. And let's just stay with some breaking royal news for the next few moments. Prince William, we're hearing, is set to join Donald Trump and other world leaders in Paris tomorrow for a huge event commemorating the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral after its serious and significant fire a number of years ago. The spire has since been restored. The entire inside of Notre Dame Cathedral also restored to its resplendent previous glory, and the Prince of Wales, William, now set to attend that opening in the French capital tomorrow for the reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral, along with none other than Donald Trump. Well, those are the latest headlines for now. I'll hand you straight back to Adam and Emily.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back. This is Good Afternoon Britain. It's now 9 minutes past 12. And what do you make of that breaking news? That Prince William is going to be heading off to Paris. Donald Trump will also be there for this reopening of the Notre Dame.
Yeah, because it's all heads of state, isn't it? So there's been some question why Keir Starmer isn't going. He's not the head of state, he's the head of government, so this is slightly different. But, yeah, big news, very exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. We're going to be in Paris because Catherine Forster is there for the reopening tomorrow. She's also been reporting on the breakdown of the French government as well, so we'll get her on that very shortly. But first, should we talk about this storm Dara? Because it's set to batter the UK this weekend. Winds up to 80 miles per hour, heavy rain. There could be a risk to life and property. They're just looking at pictures there in Dublin of tents, well, soaking wet tents. I mean, that could get precarious very quickly.
Yeah, that's the thing. It happens in a second, doesn't it? That's what, like I said, when I was in Wales last week, it's just like a flash flood instantly. So a rare red warning for wind, not easy to say, which warns of significant disruption and a danger to life has been issued by the Met Office for parts of Wales and southwest England on Saturday.
OK, so this is very much going to be on the west side of the country that's going to be hit the hardest. On top of all of that, rush hour this morning has been rather manic. Trains have been delayed due to a nationwide fault with the communication system. That's according to National Rail, and I believe that the disruption is very much still ongoing.
Yes, well, joining us now is meteorologist and director of Weather Trending, John Hammond. John, what's the latest? What can we expect from this over the weekend?
Well, there is no breath of wind here. It is flat calm, and that's just testament to how quickly the weather is going to change across the country over the next 24 hours. So if you're sitting at home thinking, well, what's all the fuss about? It's a lovely day. Don't be fooled, because the weather is set to turn nasty just about everywhere across the country, particularly, as you say, across western areas, all courtesy of Storm Dara, which is winding itself up now just to the west of the UK. It's already bringing heavy rain across Northern Ireland, and despite a fine day across many other areas, that will change later on this afternoon into tonight. Rain will sweep across all of us. Of course, if you've been on the Met Office website, you'll see just how many warnings there are across the country. I'm not going to go into the detail of those. It'll take me too long. It'll be on your phone. You'll have details on your weather app of weather warnings affecting you. But the nuts and bolts of it are that rain will sweep across the whole country later on today and into the night. That will have impacts. Yellow warnings in force for wind and rain, affecting just about everywhere. Snow, as we go into the night across the Highlands of Scotland, but for most it'll be wet rather than white. Now, rain, of course, is a concern given what Storm Bert delivered, particularly to parts of South Wales. And here, as we go into tomorrow, there is an amber warning in force for heavy rain. Obviously, your catchments are very sensitive. There are still numerous flood warnings in force from Storm Bert, and some places are going to see another inch or 2 or 3 on top of that. So there will be impacts from rain. I think more widely, the impacts will be from wind across the country. You know, gusts of 50, 60, 70 miles an hour inland, quite rare. And that's what we're going to see as we head into the early hours of tomorrow. But of most concern, and the computer models are picking up on this now, is a swathe of particularly intense winds sweeping down across Northern Ireland, Wales, and up the Bristol Channel early tomorrow. And that is what's prompted the red weather warning from the Met Office. High momentum air accelerating down through the atmosphere and then gushing its way up the Bristol Channel. And within this zone across West Wales and up the Bristol Channel into parts of the West Country, we could see gusts of 70, 80, dare I say, 90 miles an hour. Obviously, coastal areas most affected, but even inland, I'm expecting significant damage, certainly disruption. And wherever you are across the country, I think if you've got travel plans, you'll probably have to change them or not travel at all through tomorrow morning.
It's not what you need in the run-up to Christmas, is it? But I guess it is that time of year. The weather is going to be utterly miserable by the sounds of things. What about if you're in, I don't know, Norwich or Dover or Canterbury? Are they going to be hit by some of the weather if you're on the east side of the country?
Not initially. Initially, actually, you'll be spared the worst of it because the storm's coming in from the west. But there'll be a sting in the tail of this storm because as it moves across the country, bodily across the country through to tomorrow, and then clears the east coast, behind the storm, we're going to see northerly winds surging down across eastern parts of the country. So even here, for a time, later on tomorrow, we could see gusts of 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. So as I said at the top, nobody really spared from a combination of
Just quickly, while I've got you, when you say gusts of 50, 60, 70, and then you say, it could even reach 90 in some parts, I don't know what that means. I'm not really sure exactly what that means. So how could you bring that to life? What's the difference between a 50 mile per hour and a 90 mile per hour in terms of the damage and the impact?
Sure. A 50, 60 mile an hour gust is enough to take branches down the odd tree inland at any time of year. But certainly 60 mile an hour gusts, you get slates off roofs, you get trees down, you'll get the odd road closure. You'll certainly get disruption to travel. You could see the odd power line down. It goes a notch up as you get into sort of 70, 80 mile an hour territory. Then the impacts sort of exponentially increase. So some serious damage, many trees down. I think by the time you get to 70 mile an hour gusts inland, serious damage, certainly a major disruption. 90 mile an hour gusts, I think that's unlikely inland, but around coastal areas, colossal waves crashing onto the shoreline. So there'll be coastal flooding as well as inland flooding, courtesy of all that heavy rain. If you want a ray of light, as we go into next week, things do settle down, but the price we pay is it'll turn much colder through tomorrow, through next week. So we'll be talking about frost and ice and all that sort of stuff into next week. But that's a long way off at the moment. Wind, rain, and for a few of us, some snow.
John.
Down the hatches.
Yeah, John Hammond, thank you very much indeed for talking us through all of that excellent stuff. Yeah, to put those wind speeds into some kind of perspective. Now I think I've got a grip of it now.
It's the difference between amber and red and yellow. What's the significance
what does that actually mean?
What does that all mean?
So it's umbrellas this weekend if you can cling on to it.
Basically,
and then scarves and gloves over the next week.
There we go.
Brilliant, eh?
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Right, moving on. National Rail warned a nationwide fault is affecting all rail services across the country. ScotRail, South Western Railway, London North Western Railway, Thameslink, Southern Rail and the Elizabeth Line. We got there in the end. The Elizabeth Line are all affected.
So a lot of lines.
A lot of lines. What impact will this have on Christmas shoppers and commuters? Well, joining us now is GB News' correspondent Cameron Walker at Waterloo Station. Cameron, what's the latest where you are?
Hi Adam. Well, to be honest, there are still a few delays and cancellations here at Waterloo Station this afternoon. As you said, it is a nationwide fault that is affecting the rail network. It particularly impacted commuters this morning coming into those big cities like London, Manchester, as well as a number of others. Some reportedly were told to get taxis this morning because there were just simply too many cancellations up, and that was going to be the only way they could get into work. But it's also affecting some of the busiest airports in the United Kingdom, including Heathrow. As you mentioned, the Elizabeth Line is affected, trains to Reading and Heathrow, ScotRail, Gatwick Express, Great Northern, Southern, Thameslink and South Eastern. So you may be asking, well, what on earth is this United Kingdom fault that's affecting all the trains network? It's all to do with the radio systems to enable drivers and the signal operators to speak to each other. It's a relatively modern system to allow them to talk even when the train's in a tunnel, for example, or a deep cutting, which means the normal signal doesn't really work. It was replacing the old archaic system, which was very patchy, which was analog, and also to improve safety. It also was meant to kind of improve efficiencies and make it, and it was far cheaper to maintain. But of course, it is broken down in quite a substantial way this morning. I'm told it's quite rare that this sort of thing happens. A Network Rail spokesperson says, we have discovered a fault with the railway's radio communication system that is preventing it from automatically logging on. The backup manual login system is being used instead, causing a few minutes of delay at the start of the day. Once it's up and running, the system is working normally and the impact for passengers is minimal. Now, I think disruptions was certainly worse, was more bad this morning. Disruption was expected until around midday. There is still some lingering delays and cancellations, as I mentioned here at Waterloo, but hopefully commuters who had a pretty dismal time getting to work this morning will have a much easier time getting home.
Yes, I imagine a lot of people saw the delays and just turned around and said, you know what, today I'm going to work from home. But Cameron Walker, thank you very much indeed, our correspondent there at Waterloo Station. Adam, I don't know about you, but there's nothing more frustrating than turning up at a train station to see delayed, cancellation, and they always wait so long to tell you that it's cancelled.
It makes you so angry, doesn't it? And then, you just sit there for ages, nothing. Oh, yeah.
It's when they say it's platform 1, and then you see it changes to platform 3, and then it changes to platform 8, and then it's back to platform 1, and then delay, and then they just cancel it. then it's just
my imagination. It just feels like this is getting worse.
I think it's getting worse. I mean, I was up in Grimsby yesterday, and the rain started. It was dry for most of the day, but the rain started coming down. Yeah. And I arrived at Grimsby, and my train was about 5:30, and you know, I was very worried that it was going to be delayed. Anyway, it was delayed, and the platform got moved around a few times, but I did get home. Otherwise I wouldn't have been here, obviously. But there you go. The trains, do I trust the trains? Absolutely not. But I wouldn't have fancied driving either.
Well, no, exactly. It looks like at least it's getting a little bit better, so if you've been delayed, light at the end of the tunnel, perhaps. Anyway, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. Reform UK has overtaken Labour in a national poll for the first time, pushing Sir Keir Starmer's party into third place.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
The latest Channel 4 Dispatches documentary has revealed details about the royal family's finances, including reports that private royal estates have received millions of pounds of income from public bodies and charities.
Morning, and good morning, Stephen. Absolutely, I'm not shocked either. And also, as a former butler, I was also a duchy rentee. I used to rent one of the properties, and we were always aware of the property portfolio. I don't think it's kind of a bit news thing. Obviously, part of the, if you like, the business side is these two duchies, Cornwall and Lancaster, and the late Queen obviously was the Duke as well of Lancaster, and now you've got the Prince was obviously, or the King, when he was Prince, had the duchy. And these properties, portfolios as well, I mean, obviously they make money. I mean, but they've been around for, I think they go back to George III, if not before.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 12:24 now. Reform UK has overtaken Labour in a national poll for the very first time, pushing Sir Keir Starmer's party into third place.
Yes, wow, this is the first time this has happened. A jubilant Nigel Farage took to X to respond to the news, declaring, "We're just getting started." That's a dramatic picture, isn't it?
It is. I mean, that's typical Nigel Farage. This will undoubtedly come as a bitter blow for the Prime Minister, who yesterday sought to reset his flailing government with 6 new milestones. We'll be discussing that in detail shortly, actually.
To add to the...
Well, to add to the... Right, so those milestones, to add to the first step, the missions, the foundations and the pillars.
There you go. Can you remember all of that? And they've all got different names, of course.
It's so simple.
Anyway, let's discuss all this with the former spokesman for Reform UK, Gawain Towler. I guess the question is, could Nigel Farage actually be the next Prime Minister of this country if the pollings do so well?
Well, that's the plan. Clearly, that's the plan.
But do you reckon... Well, yeah, I guess you would say that.
Yeah, is it achievable?
I have a hard and fast rule about polling. If it makes you smile, ignore it. Don't believe it. If it makes you feel good, don't believe it. This didn't make me smile. This made me laugh out loud when I read it yesterday.
Right.
You don't believe it?
No, I don't. But what I do believe is in the trajectory, the direction of travel. I do not believe that poll. That's an outlier. That's a wild outlier. In Wales, 35%, 7 points in the lead across the board. I mean, this is extraordinary figures for Reform. But I do believe the trajectory It is not unusual that we're hitting the 20s. It is not unusual that we're pushing the Tories, pushing Labour. So this is an outlier. I'm delighted. As I say, it made me laugh beyond smile. But do I believe it? No. That being said, yes, there's absolutely no reason why the reform shouldn't have the ambition to be the governance of this country, or at least part of the government of this country.
Interesting you say that, at least part of the government.
Well, who knows what happens? Many a slip, quick softened lip.
Well, indeed, Gawain. But that requires them going to... I mean, look, it's a long way away, but...
It's miles
Let's say there is a hung parliament, for argument's sake, which is what you're suggesting. What happens? Is Nigel Farage really going to say to Kemi Badenoch, it may not be her by then, but is he really going to say to Kemi Badenoch, let's pull together here? After all the fighting over the last... Who knows how many years? Like more than 5, more like 10, 15 years. What's going to happen there? Is that
it's
just handing it to Lib Dem, aren't we?
If the option is, if it is a hung parliament, then, of course, Mr Farage can spend his time talking to the SNP, he can talk to Plaid Cymru, he can talk to the Tories, he can talk to Labour, he can talk to the Lib Dems. Which one's he most likely, and there's greater crossover, at least in their support base, if not in the numpties that make up the green benches? It makes sense. We don't know. Now, I think you're right that Kemi is unlikely to... I think it's unlikely that Kemi will make it to the general election. Who knows who replaces her, and I think that will happen. But the problem is, I cannot see the Tory party ever electing a centre-right leader again, because vast numbers of Tory members have already left and joined Reform. The sort of people who might support a generic-style candidate are already in Reform. So where are the voters? Where are the membership voters for the Tories?
Wayne, if you don't mind holding that thought, we're going to jump over to our political editor, Christopher Hope, because he's been speaking to the Prime Minister's spokesperson for us. Christopher, what have we found out then?
Yeah, so breaking this lunchtime, there's been an announcement from the Cabinet Office, probably via something called the London Gazette, of as many as 4 people being stripped of honours. We're waiting to find out who they are and getting their reactions, but that's quite a big moment, I think. You don't often see people losing honours. Again, we don't know the full detail of that. We'll bring it to you as soon as we can. The PM's deputy official spokesman has told journalists this lunchtime the cases being highlighted speak for themselves, and there's no suggestion here that the honours system is in disrepute or is under review, and we'll judge those as we see fit. But 4 people this lunchtime being stripped of honours given out by the King or by the Queen. On Donald Trump's visit tomorrow to Paris, he's going to look at the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral, a spectacular building which was just nearly destroyed by fire and has been rebuilt in the past 6 years in France. The Prince of Wales is expected to be going for the UK, but the Prime Minister is not going. He is spending the weekend in Downing Street. Asked if President Macron was stealing a march on the UK by getting to meet the President-elect Trump. We are told by Number 10 that the PM had a very productive meeting with Mr Trump some time ago. There's a long-standing relationship, and that relationship continues. There's the idea that maybe some of these, with the plan for change, some of these are confusing all the foundations and milestones and missions. The Number 10 is clear. They are clear, they tell us. They say they are the missions or the mandate for change. The foundations run through what they do, and the milestones are a tangible way for the government, for the public, and to hold us all to account. So there is a degree of structure through all those different ways of working out how well the government's doing.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we are going to be discussing that later on. I've got a chart here, we've got the foundations, I've got the milestones, I've got the steps. It's all going to make perfect sense, I'm sure. Gawain Towler, thank you for that, Christopher Hope. That was our political editor, Christopher Hope, there, the latest.
The Donald Trump being in Paris for this Notre Dame reopening, Gawain.
Yeah.
Prince of Wales being there. Presumably Keir Starmer could have gone if he wanted to.
I'm sure he could.
Why would he miss such an occasion?
Because I'm sure he's working with the new great brain of the Labour Party, Torsten Bell, the man responsible for the Edstone, on milestones. Who knows what's going to be carved on the new Edstone milestone things?
Seems utterly bizarre. What an opportunity.
Well, it does. I think he claims to have this long-standing and great and deep relationship with Donald Trump. The only relationship we had Donald Trump with rude things said on Twitter by most of Labour. The person, of course, we know who has the deep and long-standing relationship with Donald Trump, and it ain't Keir Starmer.
He's leaning on this dinner that he had with David Lammy and Donald Trump a little while ago, isn't he? He keeps referring back to that. Oh, don't worry, the relationship's great. We had this 2-hour dinner.
Macron did this before. Macron,
rolled out the red card.
Yeah. And so there you have an American president who desperately wants to be in good terms with the UK, really keen. Macron, he's in 6 and 7s. His government's collapsed. The Prime Minister's gone. Hell to pay. And yet, Macron has the wisdom and the wit that seems to be completely lacking in British governments, not just this one, but the previous ones too.
Gawain, might Number 10 say that they were facing criticism for never here, for always being away, and now finally he's decided to stay at home in Number 10, and he's getting criticised for not going to France?
Well, he could do a day trip on Eurostar.
It's only Paris. It's not very far.
It's really not a big problem. It isn't like going to some place in the middle of the Stanates where nobody's listening and you're the only person of any supposed importance there. It's not like going to Suva.
You're talking about COP.
Yes, indeed. Cop out, I think, would be a better way of putting it. No, I think he does have a lot of trouble. You had the passing of the farming tax, where you see what I suppose you might call the new Labour red hedge is going to find itself grubbed up by Reform and by the Tory party in the next election. He has that problem on his hands. He himself is probably lost in the tic-tac-toe of his new system of milestones and pledges.
Probably getting a bit overwhelming, isn't it?
So maybe he's got to sit at home and sort of work out
got to revise,
the cat's cradle of what he's supposed to be doing, and then perhaps he'll have something to say. But frankly, he should be. Surely
It seems like an obvious one to go to, but what do I know? Gawain, we're going to have to leave it there.
No problem.
But thank you so much again, Gawain Towler. Brilliant stuff. Also, I'm very curious to know who these 4 people are who've been stripped of their honours. I wonder who they could be.
That's
extraordinary. Is there some kind of scandal there? Anyway, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We've got lots more coming up in today's show. It all got a bit heated on Question Time last night.
I was disappointed Keir didn't mention Brexit, because I think Brexit has done so much damage to this country. Well, I'm sorry, Neil. I'm sorry. Nigel doesn't want to accept.
You are the worst loser in history, Alistair.
No.
Get over it. It's 8 years ago. Move on.
Wow, bringing it back to Brexit, that's a surprise from Alistair Campbell. I can't believe it.
Bit of a one-trick pony these days. I don't know. There was more of that. I don't know if you saw it. But anyway, we're going to get the news headlines and we'll be back.
Very good afternoon to you. It's just after 12:30. The top story this afternoon, in fact, and it is, of course, that the UK is bracing for life-threatening winds as the Met Office issues a rare red warning for Storm Dara on the way. Gusts of over 90 miles an hour are set to batter Wales and southern England from 3 o'clock on Saturday morning, with warnings of flying debris, falling trees and dangerous waves. Power cuts, damaged buildings and travel chaos are all expected as the storm tears through. Amber warnings also cover much of the country, with severe winds lingering well into the weekend. Train chaos is continuing to grip the UK today, with passengers hit by yet another warning after this morning's system fault caused widespread disruption. National Rail has apologised, admitting a hardware upgrade to its radio system brought services to a standstill across London, southern England, Wales and beyond. Well, while that fault has now been fixed, travellers are facing fresh challenges as Storm Dara threatens to bring that severe weather and more delays this weekend. Flooding is already affecting routes in Stockport and in Chester, with passengers urged to check live updates and expect longer waits. Bring you some breaking news now from court in Winchester, where an alternative healer who promised self-cure through controversial slapping therapy has been sentenced in the last few minutes to 10 years in prison. That is for the manslaughter of an elderly woman. Hongqi Zhao, who has no medical qualifications, preached the benefits of hitting yourself to rid your body of toxins. 71-year-old Danielle Cargom died in October 2016 after stopping her insulin medication during a workshop run by Zhao. The court heard she had been convinced by his claims, calling him a messenger sent by God. The Met Police counter-terrorism unit is urging people to trust their instincts and to stay vigilant this festive season. With major events like Christmas markets, football matches and carol services drawing large crowds, officers in London are urging the public to report anything they may believe is suspicious. Each year, over 10,000 reports are made to counter-terrorism policing, with a fifth providing crucial intelligence to disrupt potential threats. Well, the Met Chief's superintendent says that the public's role is vital, with over 40 terrorist plots disrupted since 2017. And Prince William will join former US President and soon-to-be President once again, Donald Trump, and other world leaders tomorrow for the reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral. The Prince of Wales will represent the King in Paris at that ceremony, celebrating a completion of 5 years of restoration following a devastating fire in 2019. The service will begin with the symbolic banging of the cathedral's great doors by the Archbishop, using a special staff made from the building's original wood. Prince William is attending at the request of the UK government. French President Emmanuel Macron has promised to restore the historic cathedral within 5 years of that blaze. And just before I hand you back to Adam and Emily, an update on that news we heard from our political editor, Christopher Hope, regarding a number of peers believed to be being stripped of their honours. We're just hearing that the Conservative peer and donor Rami Ranger is among those believed to be stripped of his CBE after he was found to have bullied and harassed a female journalist. That's after the Lord's Standards Committee ruled last year in June that Rami Ranger had targeted that journalist, female journalist, with messages and tweets after he had been criticised by some of her reporting. So that news just coming into us. Tory peer and donor Rami Ranger is one of those among many we're hearing that have been stripped of their CBE after a probe ruled that he had humiliated a journalist. We'll keep across those lines for you, bring you much more throughout the rest of this afternoon. Now, though, it's time for a short break.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Storm Dara is expected to bring very strong winds and some heavy rain, some hill snow across Scotland at times, and we do have a red weather warning issued through the early hours of Saturday for strong winds in the west. Firstly, though, a ridge of high pressure brings fairly settled conditions before Storm Dara moves in from the west, bringing heavy outbreaks of rain this afternoon across Northern Ireland and then later across western parts of Scotland and England and Wales. And we'll really start to see the winds pick up under this cloud and rain too. To the far east, though, it's largely going to be dry and settled with plenty of hazy sunshine by the time we reach this afternoon. Now, through into the evening, then, we'll continue to see these outbreaks of rain slowly spread their way in from the west. This is going to be heavy at times and turning very blustery under this cloud and rain too. Across Scotland, the rain will move its way eastwards, heaviest in the west at first and falling as snow across high ground. And similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, heavy outbreaks of rain and starting to turn very windy, particularly around coastal areas. To the far southeast, it's likely to stay dry until the evening, until later on into the night. And then from the west still across England and Wales, we'll see those heavy outbreaks of rain continue. And they will continue to move their way eastwards through the course of the night as well. We'll really start to see those winds pick up through into the evening, particularly once again around western areas where we do have amber and red warnings issued. So do stay up to date on the Met Office website for those. Otherwise, heavy outbreaks of rain continuing, still falling as snow across northern Scotland. Now, Saturday is set to once again be another unsettled day. Plenty of heavy outbreaks of rain crossing the country at times and very windy, even in inland areas, but particularly around coasts, western coasts of England and Wales and Northern Ireland too, seeing gales, if not severe gales at times. So a very unsettled day and feeling particularly cold in those brisk northerly winds. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
The latest GB News travel.
It's looking slow as a result of a closure in Chipping Warden in Northamptonshire. The A361 is closed whilst emergency repairs take place between Hog End through to Wardington. The M25 into the roadworks is slow anti-clockwise before the Wisley interchange at Junction 10. Great Cambridge Road in Chestnut, the A10, that is closed northbound to emergency repairs under fallen lamppost. Delays southbound also as traffic looks across. M48 Severn Bridge, strong strong winds mean restrictions from junctions 2 for Chepstow to 14 Ost. There may be delays on the M4 as a result. And in Wales, for Coed and Powys, the A490 Airport Road, that is closed to flooding between the A483 and the Square and Compass. For now, that's your very latest travel update.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Right, it's 12:40. You're watching and listening to Good Afternoon Britain with me, Emily, and Adam Cherry. Now, we're going to move on to some more political news because Sir Keir Starmer and the devolved nations, well, they're discussing their financial action plan to tackle climate change today up in Scotland.
Yeah, this comes as the Prime Minister's popularity continues to tumble. He unveiled more details of his so-called plan for change as he looks to reset his government. But is this a road to nowhere? Well, joining us now is news editor at Gelo Fawkes, Max Young. Max, you're going to help us go through this. We're going to talk about this chart here, which I'm now going to reveal on camera. Thank you.
Top chart, no worries at all.
Who made this chart? I'm told
Let's
this was...
get it up on the screen.
Get it up on screen.
Come on.
There it is.
No one can see that.
This took a full hour and a half of my day yesterday.
There it is.
Excruciating.
OK, well, let's ask Max to talk us through this then. Go on, what are we looking at?
Well, I think it's very simple here, and the public will now truly understand what the project of Starmerism is. It's a piece of cake. Starts off with foundations, then it goes to, well, you've got 3 foundations, 5 missions, 6 first steps. They were set out in May. We're not clear if they're still in effect. We think they may be, but we need to check that with the government. Then we've got 6 milestones as well. From those milestones, we have 7 pillars, and those pillars will enable growth in the economy. And so all this working together in a beautiful jigsaw puzzle comes together, and you could just see regrowth.
It looks like something out of A Beautiful Mind, if you get what I mean.
It does, yeah.
Sort of post-it notes to nowhere. The foundations, national security, secure borders and economic stability, I mean, that would have been good on its own, I reckon.
That would have worked, yeah.
And it all got a bit complicated.
And you can see, I mean, if we look at this chart here, Adam, if you could actually hold it up.
Oh, of course, Max, yeah, no problem.
You see that the secure borders one...
they can't see it now, but...
Well, they actually can't see it, but...
It's a foundation.
It's a foundation, but none of the missions, first steps or milestones or pillars particularly relate to secure borders at all. I think there's one.
Good point.
This is the other thing. We've got 27 goals here, and not one of them is a measurable metric of migration, which is the most important polled issue for the British people.
It wasn't mentioned at all yesterday in the Plan for Change, which was, by the way, a 43-page document. So if this document here, which you've made, Max, very good, if that doesn't satisfy you, the good news is there's a 43-page document.
It's lovely bedtime reading.
Which elaborates on some of this slightly. But you are right, secure borders goes straight to a first step. It leapfrogs the missions, which we heard about yesterday, or the milestones yesterday? Well,
milestones was yesterday.
Milestones and
missions was a long time ago.
Missions, right, OK.
About 2 weeks.
Right. So secure borders goes straight to launch a border security command, which then leapfrogs the milestones and goes straight to...
What could be more simple? This is exactly what the British public need. And it's this chart.
I'm gonna be generous to Sir Keir Starmer and his team here and say that things change.
But do they change 6 times in 5 months? Enough so that we now have 27 different goals. And remember, these previous goals aren't getting ditched. They're still technically in effect. So we've now got this weird pyramid going on, except it's not really a pyramid because everything's shooting off. So to be honest, the government is currently looking like a very strange art project or like a joke that's gone on for too long. And now you can't really give it up anymore, so you just have to go along with it.
But Max, let's remind ourselves of what Keir Starmer said yesterday when he launched his plan for change.
And this is a big job. Prisons overflowing, the NHS on its knees, a £22 billion black hole in our public finances, of which, to put that in context, is nearly half of what we spend on defence of our country. Now, I don't want to use that as an excuse. I expect to be judged on my ability to deal with it. And the work of change has begun.
Max, you might say that during the election campaign, they had that Ming Va strategy where they effectively said very little policy-wise, at least that's the criticism. And now they are presenting this 43-page document. They're aggressively promoting what they're going to do, and now they're getting criticism for that as well.
Fine, and good luck to them, but as people have spoken about, this looks like an election campaign, doesn't it? This is exactly what you should have presented to the public prior to the election. And you could have done it on day one in government as well. Yep. But it's taken 5 months of them sort of walking around, not particularly doing anything. The one thing they've delivered is a budget, which is £40 billion worth of tax rises. So that's what the public had. And so obviously they've thought, well, let's set out some different goals.
Keir Starmer's saying now that he may have to raise taxes again. Or at least he's not.
Yeah, he said there are unforeseen, potentially, circumstances in the future in which case we'll have to whack him up again, lads. Sorry.
Rachel Reeves said that wouldn't be happening.
But to be fair to Starmer, he said this morning that he had no plans to do so, which I think is what he said before the election as well.
But his argument, to be fair to him, his argument was that if there's some sort of generational event like a
war,
pandemic or a war, yes, he doesn't want to be totally boxed in, and he's saying that. I mean, look, it might be a bit of a get-out clause, but the argument is that was supposed to be a one-and-done job. The only thing that would change that is something absolutely catastrophic.
He could say, I rule them out unless we go to war, which would be a good news line for him to pursue.
And then we'd have you back on with something slightly stronger to say.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
You can always package something up as a once-in-a-generation
We could do another chart.
We haven't had a Storm Darragh for a while, perhaps we should pump those taxes up. Max Young, thank you very much for coming in and describing going through your rather bizarre graph.
The insane graph,
The insane graph. I note that you say this is the 19th reset of sorts from Keir Starmer and his government. So
many more to come.
We can look forward to the 20th. Max Young from Guido Fawkes. Good stuff.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. Winter's already making its mark as the NHS faces a quademic, a surge in flu, COVID and norovirus cases hitting the NHS.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Phil Kearsey is bringing a new flavour to the Michelin-starred restaurant Pied à Terre as he becomes its new executive head chef. Customers can expect a menu that showcases modern British cooking, accompanied by classical French roots, which uses hyper-seasonal ingredients. What are hyper-seasonal ingredients? That's an interesting phrase.
It's more about just reacting to the seasonality of everything. We like to change the menu all the time. So basically, I surround myself with the best suppliers, and they tell me what's amazing at the moment, and then we try and celebrate that in the restaurant in many different forms, using taste, texture and technique, and just try and celebrate something as humble as a broccoli stem or a cauliflower, using absolutely everything, and making sure we've got an ever-changing menu. So letting the seasons dictate, so it's never boring and we never get menu fatigue.
OK, your career has taken you around the world a bit.
Yeah.
And for example, you were in the United States. What did you learn there?
So, every chef I've worked for, it's about to take something from. A lot of chefs will go places and just stay in one establishment and get to the top, and then that's it. I've kind of then went to another chef to learn completely different things. Well, that's the brilliant thing, to be able to surround myself with such amazing chefs throughout my career, because I've learned different things from all of them. And you find out 5 different ways to do something, and you find the way that you like it the best. And it's also about understanding it takes a while to understand how the restaurant is, going through the history of all these amazing chefs that have been before me, the style, because it needs to make sense. You wouldn't have a dish that should be at the Fat Duck and then a dish that should be at the Waterside, You need to make sure that it all makes sense and it goes together with the decor, the service, the wine serving. And so we want to be the restaurant, not that does a little bit of everything, we want to be the best French restaurant in London,
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, well, we were just discussing the complexities of Keir Starmer's plan for change. Now, Starmer has said that the missions are the mandate for change, the foundations run through what we do, and the milestones are a tangible way for the public to hold us to account. So there you go.
Easy. Good stuff. Right, moving on. Winter's already making its mark as the NHS faces a surge in flu, COVID and norovirus cases.
Oh, brilliant. Yes, hospital beds are nearing full capacity, ambulance delays rising. Experts are warning we're heading for a quad-demic. A quad-demic. I'm not sure I've heard that before. Health bosses are bracing for a tough few months ahead. But are we prepared? Are we ever prepared as a country for the winter months? Is our NHS, our beloved NHS, ever prepared?
We often hear this, don't we? Joining us now is health writer, commentator and former NHS chairman, Roy Lilly. Roy, thanks for joining us. How serious is this? Is the NHS under more pressure this year than usual?
It's stoking up to be a big one, I think. We've got novovirus, which is the vomiting and diarrhea thing that dehydrates vulnerable people. A lot of them have to come in to be rehydrated. There's the coronavirus thing that's still doing its thing, unfortunately. And there's the influenza, of course, which is really taking a grip. We've got 1,000 people in hospital, 1,099, I think, to be accurate, people in hospital with influenza now. And if I was just to put this into some kind of perspective, if the average general hospital has got between 300 and 400 beds. So we've already got, in effect, 3 hospitals full of people with the flu. And that's the difficulty we have. It's capacity. The NHS can kind of deal with stuff, and it does it pretty effectively, I think. But when it comes to things like beds and people to look after people in the beds, it's the capacity that's the problem. And if you compare our capacity with other similar health systems in the OECD or Europe, we're right at the bottom of the
Yeah, this is really, really frustrating.
Head of population.
I mean, it does feel like the forward planning just isn't there. Just interested about the flu, the increase in flu. I mean, the NHS does dish out flu vaccines for free to most people who would be vulnerable to the flu. Are people not taking it up, or what's the problem?
The over 60s, yeah. The take up this year has been poor. And, there's adverts on the telly, they're on the side of buses, you see them on in the street. I mean, I don't know why people don't do it. It's free and it can save a lot of aggravation because, flu is just influenza, the kind of thing we're talking about here is not just about the sniffles and, go to bed with a paracetamol. This is very serious. And it can hit particularly older and more vulnerable people. And with what we call comorbidities, it exacerbates existing situations. So if you're diabetic, COPD, all of those kind of things, flu really hit you badly. And you have to end up in hospital because you need help with breathing and rehydration. That's the problem.
It can make you very, very ill indeed, can't it, Roy? We're going to have to leave it there because we're running out of time. But Roy Lilly, thanks for coming on the show and talking to a quad-demic. It's not what you want to hear ahead of the winter months, is it, really?
No, pretty grisly stuff. But hopefully the NHS can cope this winter. It's always... I mean, it's
the same thing for years,
Yeah.
decades even. The front pages. Last year for the NHS. Anyway, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. Don't go anywhere. We are going to be discussing whether Sadiq Khan should have got a knighthood or should get a knighthood. More like, apparently that's what might happen.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Storm Dara is expected to bring very strong winds and some heavy rain, some hail snow across Scotland at times, and we do have a red weather warning issued through the early hours of Saturday for strong winds in the west. Firstly, though, a ridge of high pressure brings fairly settled conditions before Storm Dara moves in from the west, bringing heavy outbreaks of rain this afternoon across Northern Ireland and then later across western parts of Scotland and England and Wales. And we'll really start to see the winds pick up under this cloud and rain too. To the far east, though, it's largely going to be dry and settled with plenty of hazy sunshine by the time we reach this afternoon. Now, through into the evening, then we'll continue to see these outbreaks of rain slowly spread their way in from the west. This is going to be heavy at times and turning very blustery under this cloud and rain too. Across Scotland, the rain will move its way eastwards, heaviest in the west at first and falling as snow across high ground. And similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, heavy outbreaks of rain and starting to turn very windy, particularly around coastal areas. To the far southeast, it's likely to stay dry until the evening, until later on into the night. And then from the west still across England and Wales, we'll see those heavy outbreaks of rain continue. And they will continue to move their way eastwards through the course of the night as well. We'll really start to see those winds pick up through into the evening, particularly once again around western areas where we do have amber and red warnings issued. So do stay up to date on the Met Office website for those. Otherwise, heavy outbreaks of rain continuing, still falling as snow across northern Scotland. Now, Saturday is set to once again be another unsettled day. Plenty of heavy outbreaks of rain crossing the country at times and very windy, even in inland areas, but particularly around coasts, western coasts of England and Wales and Northern Ireland too, seeing gales, if not severe gales at times. So a very unsettled day and feeling particularly cold in those brisk northerly winds. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Go on, Eamon.
Go on, Eamon. What does Eamon mean? I mean, I must admit, I never liked my name, ever. And then I realised that it's made me more individual because there are no other Eamons about. So therefore I can go by, whereas no one would know Isabel. She's Isabel Webster. She'd have
To a penny.
But
Isabel
means something like polite. But I was named after the TV presenter. My mother was in hospital, couldn't think of a name, and the TV presenter, Eamon Andrews, popped up on the television, and she said, "Oh, he's got hair like my Eamon." And she called me Eamon after him.
Oh, lovely. Oh,
that may have determined what I ended up doing.
My mum said if I was a boy, I would have been called Marius.
Marius?
Which I think is quite a weird choice.
It is a
Marius
weird
Webster.
one.
I'm forever grateful.
Whatever you call a child, however weird or strange, whatever, the child becomes that name. So
over half of us judge people instantly on their name. So we make assumptions on people based on their name. I'm not sure I do, but I mean, you mentioning you changing your name from an African name to a more anglicised name.
No doubt about that. So there's no doubt about that. Like, you know, if I'm on the blower, I sound like a London boy.
Yeah.
But I turn up as Keezy. Boy, mate, you don't belong around here.
Yeah.
That was what it was like 50 years ago. You know, now, I mean, and like even today. So sometimes today, like, I'll get some speaking engagements and I will wear my traditional wear because, you know, I've accepted Keezy and my African heritage. And then the abuse you get on social media, you're not British, call yourself English, mate. No. You know, and you get all sorts of lyrics. So a name, when a name says your ancestry is from another part of the country, part of the world, it can be detrimental.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock. I'm Adam Cherry. Oh, we got there in the end, didn't we?
It's also Friday, the 6th of December, if you wanted to know.
Well, good,
but,
yeah.
You know, it's nearly the weekend. It's nearly the weekend. I'm Emily Carver, by the way.
OK, good stuff. Right, moving on. Chaos on Britain's railways as a nationwide fault continues to cause mass disruption. Meanwhile, the Met Office warns Brits to stay indoors as Storm Dara is set to batter Britain with 90 miles an hour winds.
Oh, and oh no, my 10K race this Sunday has been cancelled.
Oh no! Oh, you must be gutted.
Gutted. Anyway, the National Federation of Builders claims Britain needs hundreds of thousands more migrants to build enough houses to hit Labour's house-building target. But won't they need to live somewhere too?
And confusion today over what exactly Keir Starmer's not a reset speech means for the country. This comes as new shock polling puts Labour in third place nationally after Reform and the Conservatives.
And we're going to speak to a student who claims she was suspended from her university radio station after daring to question transgender ideology. She's not going quietly.
Well, send your views and post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/your say.
Yes, please do, actually. We're going to get to some of your views on all sorts of things. A couple of you have picked up on what Roy Lilly had to say there about the flu and things. He said that the jab uptake perhaps isn't as high as it should be. Lots of people are apparently getting very ill indeed this year from flu and are needing hospital beds, which isn't great. But James has got in touch on Twitter. He says that Boots, he says due to high demand, Boots isn't taking any further online bookings for flu vaccination appointments for those aged 65 years and over. But someone else got in touch, didn't they, on GB News Your Say, to say that they think it might be because of all the COVID vaccine stuff.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Lots of people are wary of vaccines for one reason or another. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe the attitudes have changed in the last couple of years, and there's a bit more scepticism about that stuff.
It's hard to say, isn't it? We're going to dive into some of these knighthoods and honours that have been just ripped away from some of these people.
Yeah, 4.
6 people.
Oh, 6 now, is it?
I think it's 6.
Ah, OK.
4 to 6, let's say.
4 to, yes,
Christopher
OK.
Hope will tell us.
Yeah, he's just been in number 9 Downing Street, which is where they have the press briefing. And the spokesperson was explaining this, so it's all a developing story, and he's going to chat to us a little bit about that shortly. But, of course, we've also got, speaking of honours, we've just had last night the reports that Sadiq Khan may be receiving a knighthood, along with Emily Thornberry and a few others, and Rishi Sunak will have his resignation honours to submit. We understand he has not done that yet, but they'll be coming down the track soon, so plenty more controversy around that, I'm sure.
Sadiq Khan and a knighthood.
Yeah.
What do you reckon to that? Do you think he deserves one? Do you think he deserves one? Do you think London's got better under his watch? Do you think Londoners feel safer, feel richer, feel better off because of Sadiq Khan?
Well, the Prime Minister thinks so, it would seem.
Maybe. gbnews.com/your say. Please do get your views in, but let's get the headlines with Sam Francis.
Adam, Emily, thank you very much and good afternoon to you. Just coming up to 4 minutes past 1. Well, the top story this lunchtime. We'll start with some breaking news that the King has cancelled several honours, removing the names of Raminder Singh, Anil Kumar, Lam Shu Kum, Lawrence Nigel Jones, Robert Cameron Johnson and Michael Andrea from the official register. Their appointments, awarded between 1996 and 2020, have now been revoked. And in a separate case, the Honours Committee discussed John Martin Scully, who was investigated for serious sexual crimes, including the rape of a child. Although Scully died in 2021, the committee confirmed that his honour would have been taken away if he had been convicted. Well, let's bring you some more on that breaking weather news we've been covering in the last few hours. Storm Dara has sparked a rare red warning for wind, with gusts expected of up to 90 miles an hour this weekend, set to batter parts of Wales and southwest England, including Cardiff, Bristol and much of Devon. The warning, in place from 3 a.m. tomorrow, calls for people to take care, as flying debris and falling trees could pose a danger to life. An amber warning is also in place for the west coast of the UK, from Scotland right down to Cornwall and Northern Ireland, with large waves and potential damage to homes and buildings expected. Heavy rain and over 100 flood warnings are also in effect, adding to the weekend's challenges. Well, train chaos is continuing to grip the UK today, with passengers hit by yet another warning after this morning's system fault caused widespread disruption. National Rail has since apologised, admitting a hardware upgrade to its radio system brought services to a standstill across London, southern England, Wales and beyond. But while that fault has been fixed, travellers are now facing fresh challenges as Storm Dara threatens that severe weather and more delays ahead this weekend. We're also hearing that flooding is already affecting routes in Stockport and Chester, with passengers there urged to check live updates and expect longer waits this afternoon. Breaking news in Winchester this afternoon that an alternative healer who promised self-cure through controversial slapping therapy has been sentenced in the last hour or so to 10 years in prison for the manslaughter of an elderly woman. Hong Chi Zhao, who has no medical qualifications, preached the benefits of hitting yourself to rid your body of toxins. 71-year-old Danielle Carr-Gom died in October 2016 after she stopped her insulin medication during a workshop run by Zhao. The court heard she had been convinced by his claims, calling him a messenger sent by God. More than 1,600 people have been arrested across England and Wales in a major week-long crackdown on county lines drug dealing. More than £3 million in drugs, £2 million in cash and over 550 weapons were seized. Police also shut down 260 county lines and say they safeguarded over 1,400 people. Nearly half of them were children. The Metropolitan Police's counter-terrorism unit is urging people to trust their instincts this festive season and to stay vigilant. With major events like Christmas markets, football matches and many carol services across the capital drawing large crowds, officers are urging the public to report anything suspicious. Each year, over 10,000 reports are made to counter-terrorism policing, with a fifth of reports providing crucial intelligence to disrupt potential threats. Well, the Met's chief superintendent says the public's role is vital, with over 40 terrorist plots disrupted since 2017. Scientists at the University of Cambridge have developed a groundbreaking urine test that could detect lung cancer in its earliest stages. The innovative test identifies proteins released by so-called zombie cells, damaged cells that is, that may trigger cancer development. Already successful in mice, researchers say they're now excited to begin human trials, offering a promising and cost-effective alternative to expensive scans. Well, with earlier detection, patients could receive treatment sooner, giving them a better chance of survival. And let's just turn to some breaking news this lunchtime. We're hearing that a case of atypical bovine spongiform, commonly known as mad cow disease, has been confirmed on a farm in Dumfries and Galloway. The Scottish Government in the last few minutes has released a statement saying that precautionary restrictions have been put in place at the affected premises to cover the animals that have been in contact with that case. At this stage, as I say, just one case of that spongiform atypical bovine disease known as mad cow disease. It is said that it's not known to be a risk at this stage to the public health, and the animal didn't enter the human food chain. We will keep across any more details coming to us from the Scottish Government regarding those latest lines about that incident of mad cow disease as we get them throughout the rest of this afternoon. Well, let's turn to some brighter and royal news. Prince William will join former US President Donald Trump and other world leaders tomorrow for the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. The Prince of Wales will represent the King at the ceremony, celebrating the completion of a 5-year restoration project following, sadly, that devastating fire in 2019. The service will begin with the symbolic banging of the cathedral's great doors by the Archbishop, using a staff made from the building's original wood. And one more royal story for you. Closer to home, the Princess of Wales is hosting her annual carol service tonight at Westminster Abbey. It's as part of her gradual return to royal duties after her recent cancer treatment. This year's Together at Christmas event celebrates love and empathy with 1,600 guests invited who have supported others. In a letter to the attendees ahead of tonight's service, Kate said, "Love is the light that can shine bright even in our darkest times." There are also plenty of special celebrity appearances. Those are the latest headlines for now. We will, of course, keep across that news from Scotland regarding that case of mad cow disease as we get it. Now, though, it's back to Adam and Emily.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
OK, good afternoon, Britain. It's 10 minutes past 1, and we're going to check in first on the rail chaos that's afflicting the nation. Yes, because National Rail, there's been a nationwide fault that's affecting all rail services across the country. ScotRail, South Western Railway, London North Western Railway, Thames Link, Southern Rail and the Elizabeth Line all affected. So, what impact is this having on Christmas shoppers and commuters as well?
Well, joining us now with all the latest is GB News' correspondent Cameron Walker, who is at Waterloo Station. Cameron, what can you tell us? What's going on?
Well, Adam, a bit of a nightmare for commuters, to be perfectly honest, this morning. A number of train cancellations and many more delays as well, and it's affecting train services right up and down the country. Some were reporting that the people at the railway station were asking commuters to get taxis because there simply wasn't trains to take them to where they needed to go. It's also affecting some of the UK's busiest airports, or transport to the airports, I should say, including Heathrow and Gatwick. So the services which were affected this morning was the Elizabeth Line, trains from Reading and to Reading and Heathrow, ScotRail, Gatwick Express, Southern, Thames Link and South Eastern as well. So you may well be wondering, well, what on earth is all this chaos about? Well, it's about a new radio system, which helps train drivers communicate with the signallers. Now, it's digital and it's trying to help train drivers speak to signallers even when they're in a tunnel or in areas where there's not a lot of signal. It was used to replace the old analogue system, which was pretty patchy in certain places, was very expensive to maintain as well. But of course, the system only works when it's working. And this morning it broke down in quite a catastrophic way, and Network Rail have been trying to fix it ever since. And Network Rail spokesperson said that we have discovered a fault with the railway's radio communication system that is preventing it from automatically logging on. The backup manual login system is being used instead, causing a few minutes of delay at the start of the day. Once that is up and running and the system is working normally, the impact for passengers will be minimal. Now, disruption was expected until around midday, and it's certainly much better than it was this morning. There's a couple of lingering delays and cancellations certainly here at Waterloo Station, but I think it's fair to say that those commuters who had a bit of a nightmare getting into work this morning will have a much better journey, touch wood, when they go home.
Oh, that's good. And I imagine some of them will say, need to leave the office early, just in case. Just in case there's still some rail chaos. Cameron Walker, thank you so much for bringing us that update. It does sound as though things seem to be calming down a little bit. Everything's slowly, coming back into action. It's so like this, though, in this country, isn't it?
Yeah, and also, look, if you're going to the airport, if you're going to Heathrow, you might miss your flight. I'm sure some people are furious this morning with all that chaos. It's awful.
Yeah, I came back from the honeymoon last week.
How was that?
Well, it was lovely. I mean, everything worked like clockwork in Thailand. And then, and then arrived back at Heathrow. Took forever for the bags to come. And then we paid for the Heathrow Express. And then, we're 5 minutes into the journey and they say there's been a signal issue and we're going to have to resort back to the stopping train scenario. So what should have been a 15, 20-minute journey was about an hour.
But you're not bitter, it was fine. It didn't ruin a great holiday. It just felt,
it just made the whole thing depressing, returning to
it's Christmas.
England,
Look, come on, the set is looking fantastic, it's all fine.
It made it all depressing, but to be fair, I mean, I'm very lucky that I managed to get away. Get away in November. It's a bit of a miserable month, isn't it? Should we move on to some bad weather news?
Well, yeah, talking of sunshine or not, unfortunately. Storm Dara is set to batter the UK this weekend with winds of up to 80 miles an hour and heavy rain posing a risk to life and property.
Yes, we've had a rare red warning for wind, which warns of significant disruption and a danger to life. That's been issued by the Met Office for parts of Wales and South West England. We are looking at shots from Dublin, where there appears to be lots of tents set up there, and the weather seems to be coming in. I don't know if these are migrant community tents or homeless community tents. I'm not entirely sure, but what we can see is that the weather seems absolutely awful, and if you are sleeping rough, it could be a tough weekend.
Yes, and we can now discuss this further with presenter and president, that'd be something. Presenter and meteorologist Alex
Donald
Deakin.
Trump.
Alex, congratulations on your promotion. What's the latest, Alex? What's going on?
Yeah, it's turning pretty nasty. I mean, right now it's the calm before the storm, quite literally, because that storm system is approaching and it's going to get very wet and particularly windy tonight across parts of the west. We have potentially dangerous gusts of wind through the early hours and first thing on Saturday morning. That's why we've issued a red warning. We don't issue them lightly. We don't issue them often. The red warning covers West Wales, parts of South West England, particularly the north coast of Devon and the north coast of Somerset. But there's a broader amber warning area, and most parts of the UK are covered by some kind of warning. You know, it's a Saturday before Christmas. There's going to be a lot of people out and about. This storm system is going to cause some disruption. So the advice is to check the warnings and see how this storm could affect your weekend.
Alex, this might be a silly question, but can you just explain the difference between an amber warning, a yellow warning and a red warning? How does this system work?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of that's it. It goes yellow, amber, red in order of severity. So, you know, yellow is the lowest level, but potentially could cause some disruption. And then we've got the amber, which is the next level up. And then we've got these red warnings, which are a real threat to life. As I say, we don't issue them very often. And this one in particular looks like really nasty weather, covering, as you can see on that graphic there, West Wales, South Wales, and up to parts of the Bristol Channel. That's where we could see these gusts of wind of 80. In some exposed areas, maybe 90 miles an hour. But that amber area across Northern Ireland, other parts of Western England and Wales, again, gusts of 60, 70 miles an hour. So just think about your Christmas decorations. You've got them outside. Just make sure they're secure. But even in that broader yellow area, you know, there's going to be strong winds tomorrow. It's going to be pretty grim at times. So just think about what you're up to tomorrow and whether this storm means you might need to change your plans.
Well, I mean, so we're in the southeast here in London, obviously. And I do wonder about these weather warnings sometimes, because I just got an email through saying that my